If you recall, throughout the past year, we had a grant that allowed us to purchase 2 of them. We were working with the same company, this time that we did previously. And the grant that we secured last time, we were able to get the 2 AEDs, and those are currently placed in 2 of our patrol cars. Directly thereafter, that grant was up again, and we reapplied, and we're accepted again. So we got another $2,500. However, at this time, we're not able to get 2 of them for the $2,500. We need another $1,100 to give us 2 AEDs. And again, $2,500 of it is covered from the grant that we've already received funds for. So, the current AEDs that we have have surpassed their manufacturer's life expectancy. The additional $2,500 grant allows the department to purchase 2 AEDs, and it obviously discounts the price that the city would have to pay. It leaves us with the city owing $1,100 to cover the full cost of 2 brand-new AEDs. I'm requesting authorization for the permission to place an order for 2 of these LifePak 1,000 AEDs for a total cost of $3,600. Adventrek Technologies is the company we've used in the past, and they were kind enough to work with us during our first purchase. The department has previously purchased AEDs from them, and they have shown to be a very cost-effective vendor, and they've also been very good with any type of warranty items. As I indicated, in speaking with the finance director, Mr. Paternoster, we determined that this method of accounting is a good practice in replacing some of our equipment that has currently outlived its life cycle. It is my recommendation that the mayor and council approve this request as it stands to be a cost-effective method of replacing this equipment item for our patrol vehicles. Does anyone have any questions?
Chief, are you seeking a budget amendment? Is that why you're asking permission?
No, what we're doing is we're taking it out of the equipment, let me see here, the equipment designated fund balance, which is for the replacement of equipment. We're asking to take $1,100 and put it into the monies for the $2,500 that we currently have in there to make a full purchase so that we have 2 LifePaks that we can take possession of.
Very good. Any questions for the chief regarding this?
So because I'm as usual, I'm confused. So this isn't on the agenda. This isn't like a new like.
No, this was on the agenda. I was just moved up to be a little bit sooner, that's all. I was moved up on the agenda this evening just because of family business, so I just getting some of it moved ahead a little
Just a
bit.
point of order. It's actually not listed under number 7 today. Does anyone have any objections to hearing this?
No objection. I was just wondering where so.
Yeah, so the chief and I did discuss this. I don't know if it was a error between the chief and the clerk's office about getting it placed onto the agenda, but we did have discussions on this, and I felt at the time this is a worthwhile purchase for the city, as these AEDs are critical for our residents and critical for our officers to use as first responders, and definitely critical for our residents to be able to have them in service if needed. So.
I'll make a motion to allow the chief to allow the purchase of the 2 AEDs funding to be as he stated previously.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Terenzi. Council, any further discussion on the matter?
I have one question. Is it this budget year or next?
That's gonna go under this budget year.
Oh, good.
Because we already received the monies from that grant is currently in our possession. We've had it in our possession as we were doing some research for cost on these AEDs.
Perfect.
Yep.
If there's nothing further, then we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Thanks, Chief. On to the next item.
The next item I have before you is a proposal for the sale of fixed assets. Just as a little bit of a backdrop, we have a Dodge Avenger that's been used in the police department for a number of years, since '08. That vehicle was recently taken in for service. While it was in for service, I was notified by the repair facility that we have a discovered difficulty with the reliability of this vehicle. It has a cradle, which is a support for engine and transmission and suspension for the front of the vehicle, has rusted through, and it leaves the vehicle in an unsafe condition. The repair costs for this item are greater than the overall value of the vehicle. And it was recommended that the vehicle not be driven too much farther. So it's my recommendation that mayor and council approve a request to put this into the auction, as we've done with some of our other vehicles that are no longer in service. Ultimately, they are sold as is at auction, so the liability is ultimately placed on the purchaser. They understand that the auction is just that. It's an auction for vehicles going up for sale, and they're responsible for any mechanical issues with them. And this will dispense of this equipment, and we ask that those proceeds be again placed back into the equipment designated fund balance to help fund some of the new patrol car costs for some of the equipment.
All right. Council, any questions for the chief regarding the, getting rid of the fixed asset there? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the chief to relieve us of the former chief's vehicle.
Support.
Moved by Dion and supported by
One of
Ms.
us.
Trenzi. Council, any discussion on the matter, any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Chief, and we got the next, we do have the public hearing coming up, so we can get the next one in there, you think, in time?
Sure.
Traffic control order?
Okay, very good. I was directed to put together a traffic control order for Summers Street. It's on the, or Summers Court, excuse me. It's going to be the north side that is bordering Flickinger Elementary. What we did is we put some temporary signs in place. The idea behind that is we've had some issues regarding some of the ball field traffic that's been kind of interfering with the residents there, and we've had that in place at this point. I have spoken to a few residents in that area. At this point, I've not had any objections to anything as far as the police action that has taken place regarding the temporary posting of signs. If this is something we want to continue, we have to decide what type of signs that we'd like to move forward with in the future.
So the recommendation, I spoke with the residents on Summers Court at length, to several of them. It was a case that initially we came up with a no parking solution temporarily, because the ballpark, the baseball field parents were parking pretty much everywhere, leaving trash and even tailgating on Summers Court. The people that moved onto Summers Court initially moved at cul-de-sac because they wanted a quiet place without traffic, and then come baseball season, they were overran with parents and kids running everywhere, which typically wouldn't be a problem, but again, they were parking just, it was Wild West over there for a while. So the solution that we adopted with the residents' input and input from the chief and the DPW was that we were going to put resident parking only signs, and then it would be mildly enforceable, right? Similar to like our veterans parking only signs. There would be no real penalty per se, but it would just let people know that this is a place for our residents to park ideally, and not to have transient vehicles park in this location, as they should be using the Flickinger entrance as well. And part of this complaint came by way of also residents' concerns with the group that was renting this location put a portage on the cul-de-sac as well, which if you lived next door to a location, they put a portage on next to your street, across from your house, you would be a little put out by that too, I imagine. So we rectified that situation, and Mr. Lang and his team went out right away, put up the signs, and so this traffic control order came by order myself. The chief executed immediately, and Mr. Lang put up the signs immediately. Now we think we've reached a good resolve, which would be the residents parking only, which is agreeable to the residents in that cul-de-sac. And that would be the traffic control order the chief's speaking of. So it would require a motion to approve the traffic control order.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Trenzi. Any questions? Comments?
Somewhat related, I know that they only moved the porta-john inside the fence, last I checked.
Yep.
I don't know if that's satisfactory to all the residents there.
They did express that it was better because it was on the other side of the fence, because we can't really police that side of the fence, what Utica Schools does with their property. I did express to the Porta-John Company, should they place it on city property again, it'll be impounded. And we did order them to impound originally, but we played nice thereafter. But they've done it before, that's why. But hopefully they'll keep it on their side of the property. If we can work with Utica Schools to ask them to move it further north, that's something we'll look into as well.
And then as far as the resident parking only, I know there was discussion that we were gonna perhaps give them something to hang from their mirror or something that proves they're a resident. We're not doing that now?
No, it was found to be not unnecessary and largely unenforceable. It's more of a courtesy sign. You know, people think this is, for residents only. Hopefully they shuffle along, because these aren't really enforceable.
Right, because really there would be no way for us to know if somebody's parked there, if it's a resident or not,
Yeah.
right?
The only other solution would be to put no parking only, or I'm sorry, no parking signs. and then allow people to park there if they were to call in and say like they had someone come over from 4 PM to 10 PM. They could call, say, I got friends over on Summers Court, this address, it's a blue Honda, and that car would be on the list, per se. That was not well received by all of the residents. Some of the residents appreciate it, some certainly did not, and I got several phone calls both ways.
I got the same feedback
Yeah.
as well.
So, and to make the solution palatable for all parties, we discussed the idea of residents parking only. So it's been moved, it's been supported, it's been discussed. Anything further? Okay. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Thanks, Chief. Chief, anything else before we get John out of here?
That concludes it. I want to thank Mayor and Council for the support on the motions today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Safe going to the
All right,
airport.
safe trip.
Thank you.
So time is 7:43. We do have our first public hearing. We do need a motion to suspend the regular session and enter into the public hearing.
So moved.
Support. Moved by Calendino, supported by Sikora. Show the time at 7:44 now. First, before, I'm sorry, we have to have a vote. I apologize. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. Show us. And the public hearing at 7:44 PM. First up is going to be 45-331 Shaner. It's a temporary use intent. Is the petitioner here? Yes, sir. Sir, if you make your way to the podium, I'll first your name and your business.
Yeah, my name is Virgil Johnson. I propose to put a tent on Hall Road in Shaner. I sell Michigan legal fireworks just for the season, about 10 days. I've been doing this in this city for about 3 or 4 years now.
Yes, sir. Yep. And I think we've all had, we all remember the gentleman from years past, who's run a really nice, clean business over there. We've had zero concerns or complaints, I don't believe. Chief, Wilczek, any concerns from the fire department over there?
That's all handled by the state and all inspections and everything.
Chief, any incident reports?
Not at all that I'm aware of.
Okay. Council, any questions for the gentleman? Any questions from the public? Okay. So it would require a motion to approve the temporary use. The temporary use is meeting the same exact specifications it has in the past?
Yes.
Okay, has there been any changes to the floor plan or design or location?
Nope, I moved it last year because of the Krispy Kreme, and it's in the same place, so we're
Okay.
good.
So subject to all the rules and specifications as per our building department, our fire code department, would require a motion to approve this.
I do have a question because in your memo, there's not a date of when you're going to put it up and when you're going to take it down.
Yeah, I presented the lease actually in the planning one, and I have a copy if you need to see it. It's the 22nd of June through the 7th of July.
Okay.
Okay. So council would require a motion to approve this temporary use intent.
I move that we approve the temporary use of the tent for fireworks sales.
Support.
Moved by Calendino, supported by Terenzi. Council, any further discussion on the matter? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion carries. Thank you, sir. Good luck
Thank
with
you.
everything.
Guys, have a great night.
Yes, sir. So it's 7:46. Next, we have the car wash dumpster variance. Is the petitioner here? Sir, if you can give us your name and your business.
Sure. My name's Mike McPherson. I'm with Atwill, where I'm the civil engineering consultant for the project.
Okay. And tonight you're asking for a variance for where the dumpster would be located?
You got it. Yep. I think you're all familiar with the site. We discussed this a month ago, I think, at the meeting for the site plan purposes. But yes, we're asking for a variance from the zoning code to place a dumpster in front of the car wash instead of behind.
Okay. And I think council was kind of in favor of that when we had that discussion.
As well as the residents, the
Yep.
resident that was present.
So Amanda, anything as far as the planning portion goes?
Yeah, so like he said, he presented to planning commission last Wednesday, and they unanimously approved, or recommended that city council approve the variance. We felt that it was a good fix for the site. It would mitigate noise and smells that could negatively impact the residents over there. It's gonna be properly screened. It also becomes safer, I think, for the flow of traffic and anyone using the car wash, because the dump truck will be able to go more easily in and out rather than going all the way around the site. So, we as the planners had no issue with it, and the planning commission did recommend approval.
Okay. So council, any discussion on this matter? Anyone from the public like to address the petitioner or council reference this matter? All right, very good. Council would require a motion to approve this variance as requested.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calendino. Council, any discussion on the matter? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
I apologize, thank you, everyone. Ms. Ricketts advises that we'll need a roll call vote. So Ms. Ricketts, would you please take the roll?
Sikora?
Yes.
Torenzi?
Yes,
Cuddington? Sylvester?
Yes.
Calandrino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanne?
Yes. All right, very good, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Motion's been approved, you're good to go.
Appreciate it.
And we are just a couple moments ahead. Shall we maintain the public hearing, Ms. Ricketts, and
yes.
at 8 AM, or 8 PM rather, and drive on?
minutes of business before we go to the 8 o'clock.
Okay, so we will adjourn the public hearing for the time being. We have about 12 minutes before we go into it. So it would require a motion to exit the public hearing.
So moved.
Support. Moved by Ms. Terenzi, supported by, I think, Brad O'Donnell. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, show us resuming the normal council session, 7:48. What's that?
I'm just messing with you.
7:48 PM. So, moving on to the next item, we have unfinished business, and we have Pioneer Park Development. Council, we've been working with the folks from HRC. Tonight before us, we have Sal Canigliaro.
Yep.
It's Irish, right?
Very good.
Sal Canigliaro from HRC, and he's going to explain to us the process of what takes us to the next step to getting our Pioneer Park completed. So Sal, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So you may recall, we were here a few months ago. We opened the bids for Pioneer Park back in March. So the bids came in. The low bid was provided by Cross Renovations at $900,351.50. The original budget, we had a grant for $500,000. And after we opened the bids, we reviewed options of how to proceed. Some of the discussion went to, reducing the scope of the project, possibly doing some of the work in-house, possibly looking for additional funding sources. So all that was reviewed. We've had multiple discussions with the contractor, Cross Renovations. And where we are today is we have a recommendation for City Council to how to proceed with the project. We have the original $500,000 grant and an additional, and Mayor Tom Beyond, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have additional $125,000 available within the budget from the DDA.
The DDA has met and discussed the matter, and they've approved to take $125,000 out of the DDA and assign those funds to the project Pioneer Park.
Yes. So that brings us to $625,000. So we still had a gap there. So we looked at the plans. We discussed what the most important features of the park was, where we could cut, where we could reduce, still have a viable park that's useful to the residents of Utica, and something to be proud of. So we have been able to, I think, do that for the city of Utica. We have the $625,000, and what we've looked at is reducing the scope of work by shrinking the park down somewhat. So originally we had the dog park, which was fenced in. We had a large pathway that looped around the park. We had an east-west pathway that connected the existing regional trail to the sidewalk at Brownlea, if I'm saying that.
Brownell.
Brownell, thank you. And I've said that incorrect in the past.
You only said it worse than Gus does. And
So
he
we
lives
looked
on the
at-
street.
But I live on the street, so I'm allowed.
So we were like, well, where do we cut? What can we do to make this work? So first, we eliminated the pathway that loops around the park. By doing that, we basically cut off the developed portion of the park just north of where the dog park fencing is. So all that area to the north will remain in what I would consider a natural state. It'll revegetate back naturally. We would include all the area for the park up to the north, just north of the fencing, and all that area to the west until it drops off down into a sloped area where the pathway runs. We would install all the fencing for the park. We would install the comfort station, the bathroom facility, all the utilities and all the that go with that comfort station. The east-west pathway that connects Brownell to the regional bike path. We would pave the entry into the parkway, into the park, and the parking lot. The parking lot would be slightly shrunk down, so it won't be as large as it was originally proposed. And we would reduce the landscaping by 50%. Obviously, everything north of the fenced-in area would be eliminated, so that landscaping automatically is eliminated, and we would scale down the rest of the landscaping. The park sign at this point is eliminated, though potentially that could be put back in, and I'll explain that in 1 second. So we came up with a dollar figure to do those improvements of $550,151.50. So the difference between that and the $625,000 is roughly $75,000. So what the $75,000 number is, that is all our contingency, the engineering, the grant work, the post-engineering for layout, and then any dollars that may be left over after all that is paid, then we can then consider bringing things back into the project, including the park sign, maybe additional landscaping, maybe there's been discussion about a security system for the gates. So that contingency number is out there. Our goal is to stay within that $625,000 budget when it's all said and done. So right now, we are at an award amount of $550,151.50, plus the contingency to get us to a total budgetary amount of $625,000. So my recommendation would be to award the base, I'll call it the base bid, or the modified base bid of $550,151.50 to Cross Renovations from Livonia, Michigan. And we could proceed with the project and make any adjustments we think necessary as we proceed, as far as if we have additional dollars, where we would spend those dollars.
Council, any questions for Mr. Canigliaro?
Sal, so Han, is that going to be asphalt then?
Yes. Yes.
So that's a plus. I thought we
Yeah.
were,
Yeah, that was that entryway into the park.
Right.
Yeah, that's the Han extension.
And then we'll have asphalt from the park itself to the hike and bike trail.
Yes.
Good.
that was my next question. And I think we said no lights, right? There's
Oh,
not-
yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about that part. Yeah, the entire park lighting system has been eliminated as well. That's a major item.
We did talk about putting lighting on the back of the comfort station to light up the dog park, though?
The actual comfort station will have electricity because it needs to have
we can-
power,
we can
and
put-
we can add lighting to that.
So at
But-
least light up the dog park area?
Yeah, we'll have some moderate lighting around that area, but it won't illuminate the entire grounds as was proposed under the original
And like very
design.
often in many cities, most parks, several parks are a dawn to dusk park anyways.
Yes.
So as we get more grants and more opportunity, we can start adding these other components.
Yeah, and that also leaves you that north half of the park again as an open space. I mean, right now, we wouldn't grade it. It's graded out right now, so I think we would just let it revegetate into a natural state.
And that's like from the edge of the dog park area?
To the north, I would say, what is that street north of?
Chappaton.
Yes, basically that would be the north limit of the park at this point, maybe just south of that, I would say.
All right.
So we went from a roughly about 8.5 acre development to approximately a 5 acre development. So about a 40% reduction in the total area.
Council, any questions for Mr. Canigliaro?
When would we anticipate it being completed?
I've spoke to the contractor, and he is ready to begin on his end. The prime contractor, his item of work is the bathroom, the comfort station. So he says he's ready to move forward on that in short notice. And then the site work, once the contract is awarded, we would get with him and we would work out a schedule. Because it's been such a long time from when we opened the bids till now that we're awarding. There was, on his end, and I can understand, his perception was that the project just wasn't going to move forward. So a lot of his subs have moved on to other jobs. So what he said to me was, I'm going to have to regroup with my subs and then provide the schedule. The goal is to have the park done the end of the construction season. And that's realistic.
We're kind of shooting for Labor Day, right?
Well, I said that to Tom. I said, if the guy was really good, he'd have it done by by Labor Day. But I don't think we can't hold him to it. At this point, it's so much time has passed, and it wouldn't be fair to hold him to it. But if we could have it done by the end of the construction season, and with any luck sooner than that, I would be satisfied with that.
Thank you.
Council, any further?
Just as a side note, Mr. Lang and his department has also done site work on that site to help get this park to where it's at and also save money, so thank you to the
They've done a great,
DPW.
they've done a great job out there. It was
Yes.
it was a pile of kept trees, tires, debris that's been pushed back there for 30 years, and they came back there. I mean, the way it looks now is so much better than it's looked in the past, but I'm excited to see what's gonna happen the next couple months between now and Labor Day.
Don't hold me to it.
Council, any discussions or
Bill
questions?
had something, I think. Bill?
Mr. Lang.
If you can make it stop raining until Labor Day, we'll get it done.
Can't do that. I don't want to pay that water bill on my lawn. All right, so council would require a motion to approve the contract award to Cross Renovations.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calandrino. Any discussion on the matter? Okay. Ms. Ricketts, will have a roll call vote, please.
Cora,
Yes.
Trenzy,
Yes.
Cuttington, Sylvester,
Yes.
Calandrino,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dion.
Yes. Very good, motion carries. Thanks, Sal.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you so much. Okay, so it is 7:59. We would have a motion to enter back into the public hearing and suspend the normal session. So can we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Terenzi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Scheduled for 8 PM is the sale of senior housing at 6550 Greeley. I can tell you that we have a consensus with council. Well, I'm sorry. We would like to have all 7 members of council to be here to vote on this. So we're going to be actually having the actual senior housing discussion and vote on the sale of senior housing on Thursday, right here this Thursday at 7:30 PM. So we still have a public hearing, which means anyone that's here tonight is certainly welcome to speak about senior housing. But Mr. Cuttington wasn't able to be here tonight because it's his wedding anniversary. I think it's 30th.
Yes.
And so we thought it was most important that every council person was able to be here to express their concerns or interest. So in that effort, we decided to have a special council session on Thursday. So if you want to speak to council tonight on this matter, you're certainly welcome to. And as well, come Thursday, you could say something too if that was appropriate. So, Ms. Roth?
Mayor and City Council, thank you for moving this to Thursday when you can have a full contingent of council members. I would just like to ask that the mayor and council, considering the following points, be included in the contract when the bid is awarded for the affordable senior housing. First would be to honor all current leases. Keep month-to-month lease options available after 1 year of a full lease. Keep it a smoke-free environment. Keep the Pioneer Room as a community space, and Meals on Wheels as well. And pending how this all turns out, that the new owner may be partially responsible for paying some moving expenses up to a certain point. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Roth. Would anyone else like to address council during this public hearing, reference this item? Council, any questions or statements? Mr. Calandrino?
I'd like to thank Ms. Roth for reaching out to me before this meeting. I also had some conversations with Barb Wenzel, and together, we put together a letter. I don't know if I need to read it, because it's pretty much the same of what, pretty much the same exact stuff that Ms. Roth mentioned. There are some parameters added, such as like a maximum for reimbursement expenses and things like that, but it's, in spirit, it's basically what Ms. Roth just said. So I'd like to hand these down to council and Beth, perhaps.
Thank you.
With the understanding that these are not, binding items, but they are definitely a wish list.
All right, thank you, Mr. Calandrino. So, Ms. Ricketts, did you have some correspondence reference this hearing item?
I do. I have basically from Alice Berdiak, Unit 206, stating the same thing, honoring the leases, continuing to offer month-to-month lease option. And I do have another correspondence from Michelle Vitale, who's the caretaker. She states she's very disappointed on this whole process as being handled. Residents of the building were not even given proper notice that the building was being sold. I'm writing to the city clerk to express my support for adding the awarded contract that the building stay affordable senior housing. And it is so important that current leases are honored, including the current month-to-month lease option for a full 1 year. Elderly residents of this building deserve dignity and respect. That's all, that's the two correspondence that I received.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Ricketts. Anything further?
That's all I've got.
Okay. So if there's nothing else from any council members or members of the audience, this time just we'll give anyone one last chance to speak, perhaps.
Aren't they gonna tell us what the offers were, or they on Thursday?
We'll have all those Thursday, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, okay, if there's nothing further, then we would have a motion to close, I'm sorry, stand fast. We have one more item, and that's gonna be our budget, our 2019 and 2020 budget, which will require Mr. Paternoster. So council's been working in the last several months collectively to present the budget for the year, and tonight Mr. Paternoster is going to give us the details of the budget.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and those in the audience here. I'm actually going to begin with the issue of millage rates prior to getting into the budget itself. The City of Utica is requesting to levy for the tax year 2019, which funds the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019. The following millage rates: general operating 16.6842 mills, public safety 1.6681 mill, public library established by election in April of 49, 0.8339 mill. Public library millage established by election in August of 2016, 0.3962. And street debt, 1.4358. The first four millage rates that I listed are subject to Headley rollback. These have been reduced from the rate that was levied in 2018. And they are also subject to the truth in taxation base tax rate fraction. For 2019, that fraction is 0.9678. When that rate is applied to the millage rates that were levied in 2018, the four rates that I mentioned would be reduced as follows. The base tax rate for general op would be 16.2920. For public safety, 1.6289. For the original library millage, 0.8143. And for the second library millage, 0.3869. Now, if the city were to adopt the base tax rate as opposed to the rate that I earlier mentioned, it would have the effect of reducing the overall tax collection by $93,684. Given the budgeted expenditures that we are anticipating for fiscal year 2020 and the other revenues that we anticipate, it is my recommendation that the city council would adopt the millage rates as reduced by the Headley rollback, but not as reduced by the base tax rate fraction. So I will leave that as it is unless there's any questions about the millage rate.
So what is the net effect if we went with the amount that's reduced only by Headley?
So to levy the rates that are basically 2018, then reduced by the Headley rollback of .9911, you would, we would be levying $4,277,000 and change. If we levy the 2019 taxable value times the base tax rate, our revenue spread will fall to $4,184,000, or a difference of $93,684, nearly $100,000 difference.
Would there be any potential, so in this immediate term, clearly you can see following your recommendation, would there be any potential negative effect moving forward beyond this period by following this recommendation? It wouldn't seem to think so, but.
A negative effect if we follow the recommendation?
Yes.
As opposed to levying at the base tax rate?
Yes, correct, yeah.
No, the amount that I have recommended, the millage rates I've recommended are those that we are, they're the maximum we're allowed to levy under the Headley amendment.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, so, okay.
So if we were to lower the rate to the base tax rate, we would give up $93,000 in operating revenues. And as we'll get into the budget discussion, we'll see that that would be a significant impact on our budget. It would still leave us with some allowable millage available under Headley going forward. But we would be having to adjust our budget, which we've worked hard to achieve.
Understood.
Right. Any
So
other
it's a
questions for Mr.
maximum
Paternoster?
millage, so.
All right. Are there any questions from the audience for Mr. Paternoster? It is a public forum, as it's a public hearing.
How much tax was collected last year? Total dollar amount?
Total dollar amount? I don't have that in front of me.
More than, over $4 million?
Slightly, yes.
Okay. I was just curious, the increase year over year.
When you add up all of the millage rates, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it was
With all the new businesses coming to the city,
So-
I was wondering what that affected the tax.
So the last year's taxable value prior to Board of Review and Tax Tribunal adjustments was $191,101,115. This year's taxable value as of March Board of Review, prior to any tax tribunals or subsequent Board of Review adjustments, is $203,529,621. We had a inflation rate of 1.024, a Headley rollback fraction of .9911, and a truth in taxation rate of .9678. With the Headley rollback, we're still seeing with levying at the maximum rate under Headley, we're looking at about $200,000 increase in overall tax collection for the year. you would give up 100,000 of that almost if you levied at the base tax rate. Okay?
So, any further discussion, questions for council, or questions for Mr. Paternoster to reference this item in the public hearing? All right, very good. It would require a motion to close the public hearing.
You still have to do with the budget.
Oh, I apologize, thought that's all you had.
No.
You want to actually talk about the budget itself. I
Yeah.
thought we were gonna do that under Phil.
Pardon me? Well, we have to have the budget hearing before we go into a motion on the budget itself.
Are we doing the motion now or later?
We'll do the motion later, I guess. We don't do the motion in the public hearing.
To do it today, though.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it later in the meeting. Down the,
Okay.
yeah, we don't do motions in public hearings,
Right.
right?
Generally speaking, no.
So,
Okay, so the next item would be the fiscal year 2020 budget. Council, you had in your packet a budget document for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020. It includes the following funds: the general fund, major street fund, local street fund, liquor control fund, the Downtown Development Authority's operating fund, the building code enforcement fund, the drug law enforcement fund, the public library fund, the municipal building authority fund, and though not required under the statute, the senior housing operations fund. Beginning with the general fund, we are projecting for fiscal year 2020 operating revenues of $6,312,100. Other sources consisting of bond or insurance recoveries and transfers in from assigned fund balances, $292,150, for a total revenues and other sources of $6,604,250. We are projecting expenditures, operating expenditures of $6,316,910, which include principal retirement of $245,000 of street debt and interest and debt service fees thereon of $25,640. We have other uses consisting of transfers to reserved fund balances, transfers to assigned fund balances, and transfers to other funds, that being the capture of general operating and public safety millages by the Downtown Development Authority, a total of $275,920, for total expenditures and other uses of $6,592,830. Budgeted net revenues and other sources for the year, $11,420. An estimated surplus for the current year, at the end of the budget year, $1,416,413. In the major street fund, we are anticipating state grants of $346,170. Expenditures consisting of snow and ice control, engineering, and routine maintenance of $242,000, for a net revenue of $104,170, and a projected surplus at end of the year, $747,167. In the local street fund, state grants of $147,130. Operating expenditures consisting of snow and ice control, engineering, and routine maintenance totaling $122,000, a net revenue of $25,130, and an estimated surplus at year end of $762,111. In the liquor control fund, licenses and permits of $16,000. That's our revenues for the liquor licenses. Expenditures, $3,150, consisting of $2,150 in personal services and $1,000 in capital outlay, for a total expenditure of $3,150, budgeted net revenue of $12,850, and a projected surplus of $45,845. The Downtown Development Authority is projecting TIF revenues of $323,000. Expenditures consisting of personal services, supplies, other services and charges and capital outlay, $676,750, of which $375,000 is capital outlay. A net expenditure for the year of $353,750 and a projected surplus at year end of $78,933. Building Code Enforcement Fund has operating revenues of $91,900, consisting of licenses and permits, $72,900, charges for services of $15,500, and fines or forfeits of $3,500. Expenditures of $109,595 for a total, a net expenditure of $17,695 and a projected surplus at year end of $59,225. The Drug Law Enforcement Fund is projecting no revenues for the year. Other services and charges of $5,350 for a net expenditure of $5,350 and a surplus at year end of $1,421.62. Not sure where those cents came from. Anyway. Public Library Fund is anticipating revenues of $266,910, of which taxes represent the most, $251,110. Operating expenditures of $264,900, consisting of personal services, supplies, other services and charges, and capital outlay, for a net revenue of $2,010. Projected surplus at year end of $78,530. The Municipal Building Authority, I am going to withdraw that one because I put the wrong schedule in here. I've got showing it at revenues of 13.5 and expenditures of 13.5, but I know that that is not what they submitted. I guess we'll ask that that item be addressed at the special meeting on Thursday, if I might. And the Senior Housing Operating Fund, we have proposed revenues of $396,240, consisting of charges for services of $394,740. That would be rents mostly, and interest on investments of $1,500. Operating expenditures of $212,980. Transfer to capital improvement in the Senior Housing Fund of $100,000. For total expenditures and other uses of $312,980 and a net revenue of $83,260 and a projected surplus at year end of $449,900. That wraps up the annual budget. One other item to discuss is the annual appropriations ordinance. This is an ordinance required by statute that we adopt prior to the beginning of each fiscal year, and it identifies the amount of taxes that we will levy by dollar amount, not by millage rate, to defray the operations of the general fund and the library fund. It includes copies of the general fund budget and library fund budget, which we've already discussed. We are said to raise the sum of $4,277,823 by taxation in the fiscal year 2019-20. And we will revisit the budget and the ordinance in regular session.
All right, very good. Any questions for Mr. Paternoster from anyone in the audience? Reference the budget. Any council members, anything from Mr. Paternoster? Okay, if not, then we would have a motion to adjourn the public hearing and enter back into the regular session.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Ms. Terenzi. Any discussion on the matter? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Ms. Daggy, sorry for the wait. Let's get you up and get the report from the library, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our summer reading program kicks off this Saturday with our first program, which is Kaboomistry, which is presented by the Michigan Science Center. And we do encourage residents to attend this, certainly to sign up for summer reading, which you can actually do all summer. Summer reading runs through the last week in July, but kids can sign up at any time during the summer. It's one of those kind of fluid things. But Kaboomistry is is a program in which the experiments all lead to noise, and as we know, children love that. So kaboom is the key to the whole thing there. So it's going to be a noisy program, and we hope to be one that is well attended. In addition, next week, as part of the summer reading, we will be making the fleece blankets. The community overwhelmingly supported the library's desire to make these blankets for the animals at the Humane Society, and we'll actually have 2 sessions to make them. That's going to be on the afternoon of June 18th and the afternoon of June 25th at 1 o'clock. And we encourage, we've had many adults who have called us and want to help in that. You're welcome to do so. If you'd like to come on those afternoons, you can give us a call. We'll just write your name down just so we have an idea of how many people are coming. But anyone who wants to help make the blankets is more than welcome to do so. We did design it to kind of get the kids involved in doing a project that also allows them to start giving back to their communities. But we're happy to have everybody, that shows up. And that's actually all I have tonight, and I thank you very much. Yes?
I have one question. What time is the Kaboom program?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's at
Saturday?
1 o'clock.
1
And it's
o'clock.
downstairs in the giving room. We decided we wouldn't have it upstairs and kaboom everybody out of the library. So it is downstairs in the giving room. Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sorry. All
Did you
right.
talk about the Bubble Man?
Well, the Bubble Man is coming at the end. The Bubble Man is already filled. That program is already filled up. I mean, we're doing a wait list now. So far, that's proving to be the most popular for people to register ahead of time. And it does look to be really exciting. He's done a lot of libraries. They all speak very highly of him. And you can look up online and see a little of what he does. He does have a website. It's Ron the Bubble Man. And he does have a website, so if you're kind of interested in exactly the kind of things that he does, you can see. It's very, very fascinating.
Well, thank you, Ms. Daggy. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you per
All
usual.
right, thank
And
y'all all
Ms. Daggy,
very
if you'd like to
much.
get heading home, we'll get you out of here.
I will be delighted to do that, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up on the agenda, we had the consent business, and there was none. Correspondence, Ms. Riggins, do we have any correspondence? All right, very good. We did take a vote during the public hearing on the item number 5 and 6, so we'll go past those. And item number 7 is going to be the Sport Complex at 6993 Muscone for a tap fee waiver request. Gentlemen, if you make your way to the podium, give us your name and the business that you represent.
Clint Rosenberg with Circle Land Company. Jason Gendro, I teach at Eisenhower High School.
So today you're before council requesting a waiver for the tap fee.
Yeah, you've, excuse me, the council's seen us several times over the course of the last year. And this problem became aware towards the planning committee, and we've been working with the city, obviously, on different avenues and different fronts to get our project going. This in particular relates to the water main, the pre-existing water main that was allowed to be placed underneath the current building that we had bought, to then, we realized what had happened, and again, agreed to work with the city on this. The city kind of agreed to work with us on this, and we relocated the water main to the north side of the property, on city property. We abandoned an easement and are in the process of reconnecting all of that up. Well, obviously, that came at an extremely high cost and an unexpected cost to our project. And in talking to different communities and trying to understand a little bit of that, the tapping fees are primarily generated by the cities and the municipalities to fund capital improvements to the system, the overall system in the city. And by us replacing approximately 175 feet of a 16-inch water main that feeds the entire city of Utica, that was roughly 55 years old, we think, 60 years old. We feel that, I guess, our project, our willingness to do that, and the efforts we've provided and monetary efforts would in fact allow some waiver of the tap fees for our new building. Hard dollar numbers, and we've discussed a little bit of it, but if tap fees are, and Bill will get into that, but the project all in all is over $85,000 for that particular portion of water main. 16-inch water main isn't really used anywhere else in the state of Michigan. So it's extremely expensive, and as well as all of the processes that go with it. So we're looking for council and the mayor to, I guess,
You're looking for some relief.
we're looking for the tap fees to be waived due to the fact that we replaced.
So, Mr. Lang has some insight on this as well. Right, reference.
If you'd like to ask questions, I'll answer them. No, all right, so, with all due respect to the petitioner, I think that the building was allowed to be put on top of our water main, not the water main was allowed to be put under the building. However, the end result's the same. Somehow the building was allowed to be constructed over the top of the water main, which put the new owners in a situation where they had to opt to, make some changes to their development. Something went wrong there. My guess is it either got passed without approval, with approval. And I agree that, reconstructing that section of water main at some point in the life expectancy of water main, that would have to be replaced anyway. So we did receive some savings towards that part of the 16-inch water main for the this water system. That being said, the rough calculations, because I don't have the approved drawings in front of me, but based on the square footage, the 20,500 roughly square footage of the building, the tap fees are a little bit in excess of $10,000, $10,200 and some change. The actual figures will vary just a tiny bit based on the total final square footage, but not much. Early on in the project, there was some, when it was discovered that the water main was underneath the building, that's when we entered into some talks, and not to hold up the project, they were gonna move forward with it anyway, but with the idea that it would be logical to at least have some discussions as to some potential relief for tap fees. They're aware, and I'll point out before, it's not much unlike what we did for the big development behind Sam's Club. So, and the fact that the capital improvement that comes from the generation of tap fees would be utilized sometime in the future for that water main relocation. And by relocating the water main, you added square footage to the property. I suppose we could have forced them to move it outside of it, or maybe even reach some point of impasse and been in litigation. That's not my thing, but, you know, you end up, if we did win and you ended up with a smaller building, well, then you have less taxable value. So could be win-win. Those are some key points for you to consider. My personal feeling, it wouldn't be inconceivable to consider granting some, if not all of their requests. But I don't make those determinations.
Council, any questions for Mr. Lang or the gentleman?
I mean, the $10,000 plus in tap fees sounds like if we had, let's say there was never a building, but we had to repair or replace that water main for the amount of it, would have well exceeded the $10,000. The cost to have fixed that, let's say this building was never being built, but that water main, that 16-inch failed us.
If that 16-inch failed under the existing building, one repair would have exceeded the $10,000, would be my guess. The one over by Jared probably was near, by the time we, you know, that was a 30-hour repair. This was under the building, so, yeah, that wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't be, and the new section of water main they put in should conceivably be good for 65 to 80-plus years into the future. So it's a, you know, good investment now. You get the taxable value.
I'm saying
out of
the
it.
$10,000, we could not have replaced that section on our own.
Oh, that existing, what they replaced? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just the materials alone are far exceed that. Materials are probably 40 grand plus.
The whole project was about 80 grand, you said roughly?
85.
Yeah, about 85, and that was, I mean, there were several bids well over 100. So,
Does it cost city resources to perform this tap operation?
No, so what they're talking about there.
They're tapping into the water main, right?
The actual tap to the water main. Now, they paid to have this 16-inch water main relocated and abandoned that's gonna be under the building. They're paying for that and taking care of that so they can build the building back on the existing footprint that the old building was on, but yet without the water main underneath it. Now, the actual tap for the building, they're gonna pay for it. They get their own contractor, tap the water main, they pay for that at their expense. There's two charges, forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. One of them's a capital charge. Well, there's two charges. There's water and sewer tap fees. There's a capital charge, and basically what it is, it's a square footage charge. You take the square footage of the industrial or industrial building, or in this case, sports complex building. You take the square footage of the building, and we use a multiplier of 0.5 times the unit that's prescribed for water and sewer. Water's like 420 per unit, and sewer, I think, is 560 per unit. One unit being equal to one residential household. So, but in industrial or commercial, you use a 0.5 multiplier because the square footage typically is enormous. So you take those numbers, and what that is, that's a one-time fee paid up front, capital charge that gets invested as a financial mechanism to invest in further capital improvements for the system for years down the road, like replacing that water main.
So there's no city labor expenses, they're paying the contractor?
No, it's just raw dollars that they would pay. However, you know, I mean, as much as the water and sewer fund needs money, you know, they technically saved us $80-some thousand for at least 80 years to come.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say hypothetical, the previous building was existing, right? And our water main were to break underneath that building.
Right.
Who would be responsible for the cost and the replacement and the construction of everything it had to go into repairing that pipe would be us?
That would be.
And if that was a car dealership and there was something crazy and it was amazing inside there, we would be responsible for all that.
Off the cuff, without getting doing a whole bunch of background investigation to prove that the building was legally permitted to be there, because it might not have been. I have my own theories. I think that was a hog corral at one time, you know, with a pole barn. We laugh, but think about it. There was a hog processing plant, and that was the co-op. That might have been a hog corral at one time with just a shed roof over it. Over the years, somebody slapped a bunch of siding on it, when if you looked at how it was built, it was just makeshift put together. Then lo and behold, somebody poured concrete on it too, a little bit at a time. If you look at how it was put together, so, I don't know, but anyway, under those conditions, yes, we would have to go in and repair it at our cost.
That'd be more than $10,000, you think?
No.
All right.
There's a question, do we have any, have we waived tap fees before? Do we have any precedent for this? Or
We did
is-
over, it was a Fenari that we tapped these for?
On the, let me think of what, Fairview Construction Project, there was that's all the additional units that are behind Sam's Club. In order to allow that development, we had, in order to approve that development, we had notified the developer that they would have to upgrade the lift station to afford capacity for that development. They agreed to do so, however, they came back to the city with I want to say their share was $500,000, and to do the upgrades to the lift station, and they petitioned back to the city to ask for an $80,000 reduction. In other words, we paid, I believe it was $80,000 that we had approved to offset the costs, and it was similar. You got similar support from me and similar mindset from council that the lift station was old and aging. It was going to be needing upgrades and things like that. So I don't think it's anything that's outside of the norm of being a good decision. And you're getting a new building constructed on partially landfill and an old decrepit building. So there's a lot of good points to consider.
So, okay, is there anything further for the gentleman or Mr. Lang? Okay, if not, then it would require a motion to approve the waiver request for the tap fee.
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver of the tap fee for the sports complex at 6993 Moscone. Again, based on what you have done, what you have spent, so the precedent is that we're just waiving a tap fee. It's really a trade-off of work, so thank you.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calandrino. Council, any questions or any discussion on the matter? All right, and then Ms. Ricketts-Well, roll call vote, please.
Sikora?
Yes.
Frenzy?
Yes.
Covington? Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes, okay, very good, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck
Thank you
with your
guys very
project.
much.
You
Appreciate
guys, you
it.
guys are taking the foundation this week already?
Concrete's next week, hopefully.
Good. Well, good luck with everything.
Stop
It's
the
really
rain.
excited, really excited.
Yeah,
to
no
see that.
rain. We don't want any rain either. Thank you.
All right, very good.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, and our friends from the locker room, 7790 Auburn Road, with a request for a sidewalk license agreement. And Miss, if you just give us your name once you get a chance at the podium, you're fine.
Yes.
Yeah, just give, once you get to the podium, give us your name and your business. We'll share.
This thing's in the historic district, so-
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I got it.
So, council, I was approached by Miss Liz, and I know it's like Colley, it's your.
Liz, yeah, Liz Colley.
Okay.
The
So Liz
owner of
Colley,
the
she
locker
approached
room.
and she said she enjoys watching the other businesses in downtown Utica have outdoor dining, such as Hogs Hollow, Danny J's, and now Steampunk Tap Room. And Utica is becoming a little bit more of a walkable and enjoyable downtown destination. And Ms. Colley thought the locker room could enjoy such an atmosphere as well. She's bringing daytime dining and dinnertime dining hours to the restaurant as well, making it more of just a bar, from a bar into more of a restaurant location as well. And so her request was that she would like to put a patio on the east side of the locker room saloon that would be immediately adjacent to the sidewalk that is city property, and also part of the area that would be considered public easement. And you'll see that in your pictures. So, all right, Ms. Liz, any questions or anything you want to tell us?
No, in the papers I gave you, there's a picture of where we would like to put the patio. The second window is going to be turned into a door. second window's gonna be turned into a door, so you don't have to, so you can access it from the bar without walking outside with your drink. We would like to put some shrubbery around it, since we're taking out the trees to make it a little bit more appealing. We're going to be putting 4-foot black gating like majority of the patios have, so it looks like the rest of the city. And we're also putting a exit on the gate. I've talked to the health department, and they said if I have certain hours of service on the patio, then people can bring their dogs, and it can be, as long as I'm not serving food and drinks out there, they can go inside and grab what they would like, but as long as I do that, I can have a gate on the outside where people can bring their dogs, and so I'm hoping that it will help out with Jimmy John's being down the road, and a lot more families and people coming in during the day.
So where is this actually on city property or easement?
A good amount of it is actually city property. It's, the building, I think it kind of settled over the 100 years that it was there, because part of the building is not city property right now. Is this right one? Right there. Okay.
Just the grass.
Oh, just to the grass?
From the curb, from the curb.
I thought the grass was their property.
No,
Just sign, you said this part is.
that should be, this should be.
This is
So-
there.
That's what we.
That's the front door,
Okay.
and the front door is actually not, part of it's on city property right now, because I kind of.
Right.
Is that, did you get a survey done?
No, but I have
The GIS?
Yes.
Okay, a survey would show you better, but the GIS, if you got that from the assessor, then you probably have the most accurate version.
So you're gonna put you're going to take out this window?
Yes, that window's going to be the door, the exit, and it's gonna be just this area. These 3 trees are gonna be.
And you're not going to serve, it's just for people?
Only select hours, as long as it's posted certain hours that we have, because during the days we're a little bit slow right now, so,
And you're going just to this line
just to that line, yes.
and like this?
Till about right here.
Okay,
just
so not
that's
even
gonna
that
be
far.
outside, yes. And then we're planning to do the shrubbery right in front, so you can see it from the road.
And then how far back? Just to the sidewalk
Yeah.
there?
So
So
you'll be.
right before the sidewalk or whatever that is?
You'll
You're
be
gonna take
serving
these trees
alcohol,
out.
but not food out
You weren't taking
there.
any-
With the animals, is that the?
It's certain hours, certain hours. During the day, I'm not going to have service out there, you'll have to go inside. So that, during that time, you can just sit outside and enjoy the nice weather, but.
But you would be able to take what you buy inside and bring it out? I
Yes.
just, what is the
Yes.
parameters with the health department?
The health department says if there is a server bringing you food and drinks, you cannot have smoking or pets out on the patio. If somebody is physically bringing you the food and drinks, then you cannot.
Imagine the pet portion is a pretty small
Yeah.
concern for you. I mean,
And you're gonna take
nice
the
option,
trees
though.
down?
Yes, the trees have about hit their life, and they're kind of just making more of a mess than anything else. Basement tends to flood from the stairway.
My question, you just mentioned smoking. At any given time, you have a ton of people sitting out your front door smoking. So does this now just become a new smoking area?
Well, the smoking.
Because honestly, for the people that are walking by, it's annoying as hell.
Yes. The smoking will only be during certain hours. But pretty much and people are gonna smoke no matter what. I can't tell them either way not to. But if I have it posted certain hours that I have a server out there every night, there's gonna be no smoking out there. I still have to speak with the health department on this, but that's not the plan.
We currently are in an agreement with Hogs Hollow and Danny J's where we get a fee.
Yes. Yep, and that's part of this as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Beth, was it $700 a year or something like that?
$750 for a first time applicant, and then it's $600 yearly after.
That's our arrangement with Hogs Hollow and Danny J's right now?
Yep.
Didn't she present this to the DDA about, and you guys approved cutting down the trees?
Yes. Yeah, well, I
I
don't know.
don't think we've, I think, I don't,
The DDA doesn't need to
Yeah.
cut down the trees. The DDA doesn't confirm cutting down the trees, it'd be a council thing, wouldn't it? Because they're on city property.
Well, wasn't it DDA put in those trees?
I mean, they're putting, the DDA doesn't own any property in downtown, I mean, other than across the way. So even though they paid for them, it doesn't mean that they have ownership of it necessarily.
The agreement with the DDA meeting was if I removed the trees, then I would be required to put in shrubbery to make
Yeah.
it more
Increase the
attractive.
facade.
that's what we talked about.
Yes, so I spoke to the building inspector, and he said about 7 of them he thinks would look best out there.
And these trees have worn out their economical life as well.
Yeah,
And they are not contributing to the appeal downtown. Mr. Lane?
So that, I'm not positive who planted the trees. I don't think they came in with the streetscape, and even if they did, I don't believe that technically the DDA would have authority over anything to do with that, unless they were going to fund something. The concerns that I would have, one, it's covered under your licensing agreement with your outdoor cafe licensing. But I'd like to look at the site and what it is they're proposing for, is it permanent, is it temporary, are defenses coming down, in the off-seasons?
Do you have a copy?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Are they hardscaping with concrete, taking the trees out, putting concrete in?
That's gonna be
If there's trees
that's the
going
proposal.
in, if there's trees going in or any type of landscaping or whatnot, what kind of, God bless whoever gave you suggestions about landscaping and that, but, site obstructions, things like that, how it affects the corner, the visual aspect, where our utilities are. You'll have to look to see if I got, if we have water main, sewer, things like that underneath, just in case the footprint can be adjusted to avoid that, that's all. So basically work with the petitioner to still get done what they want, but in a manner that's conducive for.
Then we could potentially make the motion, if approved, make the motion subject to approval from the building department upon review of the DPW as well.
Bill brings up a great point, just like with the sports facility. What if that water main's under there and they pour a slab over it, right?
A 4-inch slab's not gonna stop though. If they gotta dig down into the earth to get to the water main, we got water mains running under the streets all over the place. I mean, they got backhoes that's no match for concrete's no match for backhoe.
It seems like the scope of this agreement is this gonna be permanent, like in the winter? Do you, is this something you
I'm hoping
remove?
to have
It's a
it
patio.
where it can be all year round. If we could do some kind of approval for a fire pit, that would be something that I was looking for too. But if it's not possible,
Not wood burning.
a gas fire pit.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, Ms. Riggins?
These are not allowed all year.
Yeah, those are
So
seasonal.
patios, okay, they're
Yeah,
seasonal.
it's a different, I think it's a
So-
different.
An option to consider would be looking at that property, and I'm not sure where we're at with one of the ideas of that property was use for parking for the downtown in the event that you utilize the Van Dyke double lane turning. So a permanent structure there would inhibit that.
Well, we wouldn't be going up over the curb or remove that curb or sidewalk.
If we were to eliminate southbound traffic out to 59, then a suggestion would be to look at removing the curb and sidewalk and putting diagonal parking in there to increase parking in the downtown. That whole area could have been utilized for
Yeah,
parking.
but if you remember the plan, the only way to get in there would be, then you diagonally park in, but then you have to reverse out. There's no exit from there.
We still have the alley going into
The alley's
behind
gonna
it.
be, the alley's gonna be 86th. That's gonna be done,
Why not?
I believe.
No, no, the alley was gonna stay pre-existing. At any rate, those were things to consider. So a permanent structure, no. Temporary, yes. And again, I don't make those decisions, but your licensing agreement is temporary. That's seasonal.
So Amanda, we spoke before about options, and a deck wasn't an option.
No.
I didn't feel so because that would be a permanent structure
Yep.
and it would be considered an accessory structure and it has to be set back a minimum of 5 feet from their property line and this would be obviously infringing upon the city property line, I was also unclear on the trees and the removal of those. I was afraid of it impeding the pathway, that's the sidewalk, so we suggested that a non-permanent patio of some sort would be a better option. There's also like the corner clearance issue, we didn't want to impair vision for
Sure.
drivers.
And going there, we're talking about utilities are there. I mean, we have trees right there that exist currently now. If we had trees there, it certainly would be any much more big deal to remove those trees and put a 4-inch concrete bed of concrete there, which is easier removed than trees, I'd say, or just as easily removed as trees. I think that argument can be made. So,
You still have the idea, though, even the fee structure of the $750 initial fee, $600 is based on 6 months.
oh, sure.
Now
We
you're gonna
understand.
base, you're gonna have,
We're doing 6 months.
well, not if they wanna use it year-round. Then all of a sudden, your fee structure should go up because you're now leasing the property
permanent use.
the whole time period.
But I think Beth said that
But
we don't
then it
have, we
becomes
don't
a permanent
have,
structure.
we have the ordinance that says you can't do it,
When,
right, throughout the year,
when they adopted these sidewalks agreement, it's only for
the summer months.
6 months, I believe, like
Yeah.
June 1st through
So-
October. The temporary removable structure, nothing permanent. The petitioner was told that when she,
So the fence, is the
Submitted
fence
for
considered
application.
temporary removal, or is the
And-
concrete
and
patio
permanent.
considered permanent?
Well, the fence, the other two businesses in question take their fences down.
Yep.
Okay, come winter time, Danny J's fence is down, and so is Hogs Hollow fence.
Yep.
So if you go by what we have on the books, that fence has to come down and be put away. Whether you hardscape it or not, it still has to then be walkable, because people are not gonna walk on that, just as they do now. You can walk on grass, so you're not gonna put pebbles, you're not gonna put wood chips in there, you're just gonna make something that's safe. So I guess if it's hard capped, it's hard capped.
Can we enter into a lease agreement and lease that property to them?
We've done a license agreement in the past. and
Like
that's-
with, we do with
The difference
GSE,
is,
right?
yeah, the difference is, under a lease, you're actually conveying property rights. Under a license, you're conveying the right to use that property.
Then can we get in some kind of licensing agreement where,
Well,
That's what we currently do on the other parcels, the other businesses. They
oh,
have a
are you talking about Danny
license.
J's and Hogs Hollow?
Yes, yes.
But it's, the scope of it is twice as much, okay? Just by the hours of operation or the months of operation. So everything would have to be then reviewed, double the, whatever it might be. But you are now giving up the use of public property for private enterprise for a longer period of time.
So, Ms. Cully, is your intention to have that open throughout the year?
If there's a way to make that possible, I would love to. If it's only a few months, then that would be what we have to do, but.
So is council of the mind that maybe if this was agreeable and it did meet the criteria for being a concrete patio, as Ms. Cully's requesting, that we would then say the agreement is amendable to make it so that it would fit the time frame and the dollar would reflect that?
In fairness to the businesses right now that are in this agreement, I think locker room's asking for a lot more, right? So if I was Danny J's or Hogs Hollow, I would say it's not really fair that they're paying a certain amount and getting, much less than what we would be granting to locker room. So at the very minimum, I would think the fee would have to be restructured.
I'd also like to ask, so Liz, is the idea of wanting it year-round, is that also wedded to the idea of having some kind of outdoor, like fire pit type thing? Or is that like, it would have to, you'd have to have that to make it logical for you to actually have it year-round? Because if
Right.
so, I'm not sure that you might be having a problem.
Right.
Okay?
Well, Muldoon's
So-
lights their fire just about every Friday night.
Okay.
So they have fire every Friday night throughout the year.
Yeah, but that's a whole different
That's a whole
situation.
different
right.
situation.
That's their patio.
She's trying to create a patio.
Well,
this is
but
their
it's on their patio on their property. The other issue is during the wintertime, you access that, we have the walk, the brick paver walk, and where do you, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but it's thinking this through, is where is the snow going to be placed, one, for our sidewalk, and two, when you want to clean your patio, where are you going to put that snow?
We have the other patch of grass that's right behind it. It's split in half.
Yeah, there's a little bit, Mr. Lane?
Just some other considerations. One, I would encourage you to take a look at it and decide what it is. I mean, parking's been an issue in the downtown forever. And if you were going to seriously consider closing southbound Cass, before you go doing anything permanently with this property, consider the option of adding parking in that area. And it's good for the business and good for the building. However, you also have the idea of these outdoor patios and uses that are very popular and conducive for good business as well. Another option would be to consider looking at where our utilities are, if there are utilities in that area, and what the usefulness is of that city-owned property and/or right-of-way, and it could just be an item that you outright come up with a sale price and sell it. If we have no use for it in the future. So, you want to look at it as, do we have a use for it in the future? If you're going to seriously look at closing Cass, if that were to happen, if that was a debt issue and Cass is all, in your minds are always going to stay open, that square, could be better served as being sold, and then it becomes taxable property, and they can do what they want with it.
Well, I personally like the idea of a licensing agreement, even so we say it gets approved, we roll it out for the first year or two.
Sure.
It works out great, we continue with the relationship. Should we decide that we enter an era where we're going to do something to that property, we just terminate the licensing agreement at the year it's mature and move on with our city project. Chief, looks like you had something?
Yeah, I would advise you to come visit my inspectors to see exactly what type of fire pits you could possibly put in there.
Yes,
Because some has to be permanent and some, there's clearances and everything. And it's a pretty narrow area.
I spoke with Paul, and he asked us to get something drawn up with the material, the size, all of those things. But I figured I would see if it's even a possibility first before I bother my contractor.
Council, anything further, Ms. Colley?
It would seem that a license agreement built upon what we have now that recognizes the fact that the larger scope seems to be appropriate. Certainly looking forward and trying to consider all the other implications is very, very important. Just kind of as an aside, I see this wave of wanting to have this outside space. One of the things just to consider is on our little stretch of downtown, maybe eliminating the parking on the side and be able to go ahead and have more space for that. I know it's a heresy against the perceived need for, but a possibility. So,
Well, it's just kind
but
of
that's neither here nor there. But it's with the revised.
It's kind of a testament to what's happening. People want to come here.
Yes,
And you
yeah,
have a demand, and you're going to provide a service for that demand. People want to come to Utica now. It's changing a little bit more, and so I think it's a great idea, but we'll let council decide with their vote. So, council, if there's no further discussion, it would require a motion to approve the licensing request.
But we don't have.
We don't know what.
We don't know what the licensing request was. We don't have
Right.
dollars, we don't have cents, we don't have time frame.
We can
Table
simply
it.
put it, we can simply put it in
Let's
the
table,
six.
I'm gonna make a motion right now
Hold
to
on,
table this.
hold on.
Till we have, we're pushing this through.
We're not
This
pushing,
is,
let me
We are
speak.
pushing it through.
okay?
I'm gonna
We're pushing
speak.
it through.
We have a licensing agreement in place with other places. We could also make her subject to the same licensing agreement and roll it out on this temporary format. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we don't. We don't change the format at all for Ms. Colley. We simply give it to her the same consideration as everyone else. If that doesn't work, then we will simply table this right now. It's not a problem, but we can give her certainly the same consideration we gave other people. If it doesn't work today, we'll come back another month. But if we do agree that she can meet the same exact criteria as the other businesses and give that the 6-month consideration, then that's a possibility maybe.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm the general manager at the Locker Room. I just had a question. The first one, I think I misunderstood because I heard that the other places was $700 for a year. But I guess it was just
For a season.
For a season, 600, but it's just for a season. So that's what you would like us to try to enter into, is just the $600 for the season.
Well, they get much less than what you're asking for.
Right.
They don't pour slabs over city property. They don't cut city tree, well, supposedly, they don't cut city trees down
Right.
You know, they're literally just putting their tables.
So that's
in
the point of contention, is trying to figure out the dollars
We don't have
as opposed to what they're
apples
doing.
and
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
not
got
apples
you.
and apples. We believe the scope is beyond
Because
what
it's bigger.
already exists. So what already exists would be a model, or however, we would plan to amend and
Gotcha.
probably, I would say, to expand. I think that's what we're
Okay. Okay, now I understand. I just was misunderstanding a little. Thank you.
And my concern would be if you guys are, you're gonna spend a lot of money busting out that window and putting in a door, and if you go into a year-to-year lease with, or licensing agreement with us, what if we say 2 years from now, no, we're done, you know?
It's a gamble I'm willing to take because the window
Okay.
is actually already broken.
Okay.
And that was something that, once I got the original building inspections, I needed to replace. So it was about $500 window to replace, and my contractor said about $1,000 for the door.
Okay.
So,
Bricks right underneath the window.
I'm sorry?
That would really, the bricks right underneath the window, if we had to replace it, you want to put the window back in, it would really just be a matter of
Okay.
putting those bricks back in.
So we have a tax-paying business owner in front of us who wants to make our downtown more walkable. And we're considering whether or not, they fit into sort of this narrow category. I think this is a no-brainer, at least for the next year. We could flesh out the rules more going forward. We could even say, don't put down some kind of permanent concrete slab. It's not your property, we're not gonna let you do that. We tell them that right here now, this is what we're approving. I see a fence, I see some shrubs. I don't understand how this is even. as
Well, it's an issue
controversial.
because they mentioned they want to put a slab. That is the issue.
I'm flexible to anything. If we need to put down some type of decking material, if we need to put down concrete. Concrete was actually brought up because I wanted to use decking material at the beginning. I thought it would look really classy and nice with the metal, the black metal fencing. But because the deck would be higher, nobody seemed to want that. So if it needs to be decking material but at a lower closer to the ground, we can do that. Cement, if that's preferred, whatever is preferred by the city, I'm willing to work with.
We're just, I really want to go ahead and make this happen. I really want to go ahead and move forward. I do think we need to go ahead and be clear exactly on what's happening. Because I'm afraid if it all starts out very, very nice in the sense, because you're enthusiastic, you want to be moving forward, oh, I'll be flexible, and anything we need to change, we'll change. But then you have boots on the ground, and you're already moving forward, and then we may end up saying, we need to have changes. So where is, for your sense of urgency, is this how, obviously, sooner the better, you're in
Yes.
business, but what is gonna be terrible if we end up tabling so we can?
I would just like this for the summer months.
okay.
As the new owner there, it's been about 3 months, because I've been a little bit more structured than what it previously was. I'm making sure that it's a safe bar to go to on the weekends, and all the rules are followed, and some of the regulars that have been coming there for a while were not big fans. So I want to have things that increase business. As I'm putting a lot more money into the building, things that have been neglected over the years, bringing the building back up to code, I need to increase business, especially with having the bar open double the amount of hours. I'm paying double the amount of staff, and so anything that could help us out, which,
Understood.
We have a necessity to move on. So what I'm going to do is, Mr. Sikora has made a motion to table this until we are able to gather more information.
okay.
Okay? So,
If I can just, this is not against you.
No, I understand.
We don't have a site plan. I don't have a fence plan. I don't have anything that tells me the actual physical constraints, which Danny J's did bring us a site plan. I can't think of Hogs Hollow, what they had. I don't know what your 7 shrubs are going to be. I don't know what your hard surface is going to be. That still has to come to us, and this can be input of saying concrete versus, you could flush out your deck material with Trex and keep it at the same level and give it a more walkable appearance. God forbid, don't do it raised, because somebody trips and falls and it's over for everybody. okay, but I don't know all these things. I see pictures and wannabes, but they're not. And the worst
It
thing is.
isn't all year.
Well, and that's it.
Those type
One
of
minute you
things.
want it for summer, but at the same time, it would be nice to have it longer. So these are
I gave
your,
him mine.
we're coming here with a wish list, not a, this is what we plan to do with you. And then at the same time, if we really are going to rent it for more than a season, and that's what we're doing this lease agreement, the dollar has to be, is it double? Is it 2.5 times? Because now we're talking 12 months versus really a 5-month season. Okay, so this is all, and this is not that I don't want it to happen, but I'll be damned if we just go into this and say, well, we're gonna make it up as we go. Okay, you need the season, okay? If it means being tabled for a week or 2 weeks, whatever it might be, but I have really nothing to base this on.
That's another question, I'm sorry. Some of the stuff that we have, obviously this is our first time doing it, so we go through site plans and like we speak to someone will say, yeah, that looks good, and then we bring it. I just want to make sure, that we're gonna table it. Like, is there someone we could speak to so that we know exactly what needs to be? Because
We'll need our building inspector, we'll need Mr. Hicks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lang, to go out there. Have you called Ms. Digg?
Mistake, no.
They helped you determine where power lines are, where any utilities are? Okay, that's a very important thing before we were to give authorization to put this in, we have to have all the answers. And we're lacking a couple things.
Okay.
Now, I know as new business owners, 3 months ago, you weren't in the business of building a patio off the side of your building. In order to put something in there, there's a few steps that have to get followed, and that's gonna be call Ms. Digg, right? Getting with our DPW, make sure that there's nothing under that's gonna be vital. Can we release this space without any detriment to the city? So, going forward, we do have a motion to table. I will second the motion to table. Now, we're gonna get back on point here. Counselor, is there any discussion with tabling this?
No, and I'm sure you're probably disappointed with this, but I do want you to know that I feel we're positive, towards the concept, but it really has to be done
Yes.
correctly.
In order to give you the biggest win,
Yeah.
the biggest bang for your buck, we need to have more information.
Yep.
So, it's been moved.
Are we able to ask for permission to get the trees cut down sooner?
That's the biggest problem I have with it.
We're gonna
Communist over here.
answer that in a second.
Free market.
Okay.
Littlefinger, pardon me.
Gentlemen,
Pardon me.
it's been moved, it's been seconded, it's been discussed, okay? We are moving it, there's been a motion to table this item, okay? All those in favor of tabling the item?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The item has been tabled. Okay, we can enter into discussion. If you want to ask the city if you can remove the trees, that's something we can discuss. I believe those trees are on city property. Mr. Lang?
Yeah, I believe so. And I actually suggested that potentially, if she'd like to ask the city permission to cut them down in the premise of moving forward regardless, the trees are somewhat of an eyesore, and if you look at the condition of the grass, that hasn't been able to support grass, it's dirty, it's ugly. I think that regardless of where they go with the project, whether it's them or even the city, we'd want to clean up that corner anyway.
I think you're right.
So if, in the idea of moving forward with the concept of the project, getting permission tonight to get the trees at least down, would be Hoover, they're already here, and
Okay.
I think it would be good for the downtown
enough.
anyway, so.
I'll make a motion that we allow them to take down the trees, stump it, whatever we need to do. Has to be done correctly. We'll tell them how to do it.
For sure.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Terenzi. Any discussion on the motion of removing the trees? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The motion carries. We'll find out the best way to remove the trees, whether it's you guys doing it yourself or the city of Utica.
Okay,
Okay? We'll find the right solution there.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Moving on, department business. The Mayor's office, council, you should have had in your packet request for the Cass Avenue and Van Dyke traffic change request. I did speak with MDOT and the county. The certificate that we had, or the permit that we had rather, has expired from the last time that we looked into doing this. The conversation with the state is that they do like the idea of doing this the way it was presented. They understand also that this is a temporary rollout and during that temporary rollout, they will be testing the traffic patterns to see if they are increasing traffic flow or hindering. So that'll be done by the state and the county. And so we have talked about this in the past, and obviously I'd like to get your input if there's anything further at this point that you'd like to discuss about rolling out this project in a test pattern. That test
How long is the
pattern-
test gonna be? 90 days, is that
It'll be
right?
a 90-day test.
90 days?
And the test would be the case that we would bag the lights, we would not remove any entities, there'd be no hard construction to do this. It'd just simply be the case to where there'd be temporary blockades put up and signage, and we'd be bagging the lights, so if this traffic change test proved to be ineffective, then we'd just simply go back to the way it was, and then maybe revisit the drawing board later on if necessary. So, Ms. Jones, do you have something?
When are they proposing to do this?
As soon as we fill out the permit, because ours is expired.
Okay, we do have the Van Dyke curb project this summer.
Sure. They are also of mine, we told them that we have construction going on, and they said, then if it's the case, we wait for construction to be complete, we will never roll it out.
Sure.
So.
Oh, yeah, if we wait?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So,
July to August is when we're expecting the Van Dyke to be.
this might actually be if we're gonna go down to one lane, this might actually help funnel those cars out of southbound.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Just be aware that
Yep.
Van Dyke's gonna be under construction.
Okay. So, council, any concerns or questions about this?
I think it was a good idea to do it last year when we had the permit. I think it's a good idea to do it now. We wanted data, we wanted tests. School's out, that's better. 696 is fixed up, so we have less traffic. Mound is less of a mess than it was last year. So I think it'll at least give us a little bit better read of true traffic patterns.
Yep.
So,
And it might be a really good test too. I mean, sometimes there's going to be construction, and they're part of this phase that we have, there may not be any construction. The other part, there will be construction, so maybe that's a determinable fact that we can see what really happened during that construction.
Sometimes there's gonna be construction.
Well, it's Michigan.
It's Michigan.
We're gonna fix the darn roads.
Is there a better test if school is in?
Um,
Then look it out?
You know, the state didn't make that point. They didn't decipher the difference between the school year. They were just,
There's a huge difference, as you know.
yeah, well, I know my wife can attest that. She's a school teacher. She sees it. But we're gonna, this is the time that they have allotted for it. And so this is the time that we're actually asking to do it.
do we need to make a motion to reapply, or we just apply?
Just to approve, well, upon the motion, I will complete the traffic permit request. And it'd just be the idea that the state needs us to be of the same mind that we're gonna go ahead and go forward with this test.
I'll make a motion to do what you just said.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Ms. Terenzi. Council, any discussion on the matter? All right. We'll actually have a roll call vote. Ms. Ricketts?
Sikora?
Yes.
Renzi?
Yes.
Bennington? Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanna?
Yes. Very good, motion carries. So I will get with the MDOT and the county, and we'll get this permit in place, and then we'll begin the process as soon as they let us know when it's ready to go. The next is access driveway lease agreement, parcel 10.3.101.080. We have had drafted for us a licensing agreement for the parcel that is immediately east and adjacent to the BP gas station on Van Dyke at Hall Road. We have three businesses that use that driveway, and it is access to, it would be the new car wash, the BP gas station, and the HydroPro store. And so Ms. McGrath-Ballou had drawn up a licensing agreement with, in mind, these three businesses using that parcel. And I believe the fee that we've agreed upon, or not agreed upon, but we've kind of had to generate a number, and if it's suitable to council, was $3,000 per entity per year to use that property for ingress and egress out of those businesses. And the agreement should be before you today.
I didn't see it.
It's, on the table.
Oh,
So, and you gentlemen, you guys, I know, Mario, you're with the BP, you're the one with the BP, and I'm sorry, I forgot the name, it's Rocky Chino. Yeah, sorry, it just escaped me for a second. And gentlemen, are you with the same business?
Hansi Sassy Hydropros.
HydroPros, okay, and you, sir?
I'm Brian Sherrod. I'm actually purchasing the gas station in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, and then is any representative here from the car wash?
Right here.
Okay, very good. So, Did you each receive a copy of the licensing agreement?
We have not.
No? Did, who'd you send it to, Beth? Remember I asked you if you sent it to Mario, or not Mario, but Lewis? You told me you sent it to.
We received the old copy.
The original, they received the original copy that was with Utica Town Center, basically Rite Aid paid it. It was for $2,000.
And that's the one that you sent to Gordon?
That's the one I sent to Gordon, that's the one that Hansi got, and that is the one that BP got.
Okay.
Linda had just drafted the new one to make it clear, just to make one contract for each business. Council originally voted in that Mela Development was supposed to pay when they built the mattress store. And BP, that was also in their site plan original, that they were supposed to enter an agreement. Somehow the ball got dropped. Those two properties never got an agreement. So we're really just cleaning up what really should be when they were given the original site plans.
So does council have any concerns about that parcel being used as egress, ingress for these businesses? It's a small sliver of land that separates a couple of parcels, allows.
And it
access
takes
to-
you back to the new HydroPros, right?
Yeah. So allows access to those. Any concern about the theory of have the property being used for ingress, egress by these three entities? Then if there's no concerns with that, the next concern would be the term in dollar annual. So it was $1,000 per year for the previous business, if I'm not mistaken. 2,000. Okay.
Because Rite Aid uses the whole strip.
Which is now HydroPros.
Right.
So, working with Ms. Ricketts and myself and speaking with the other entities that were involved in the access, developed a number of $3,000, which I personally thought was suitable, so I approached them with that. They were agreeable to that, if I'm correct. And I don't know if council had any different ideas, but I'm certainly looking for your input with that.
And how does the city collect that? It's gonna be split across three?
No, it's 3,000.
Three businesses.
3,000 each.
3,000.
So what happens if two of them pay and one doesn't?
We put these big concrete barricades right in front of that driveway.
But how do we do that if the lease is with three entities?
There's three access points.
Okay,
One
so
driveway
their
with three-
access
with three-
point
with
gets
three
blocked.
aprons.
Yeah, I'm fine with
And you
it.
boys want to play nice, right?
I hope you guys want to put a concrete barricade, but.
And we're going to hope that check clears.
So.
Yeah, you can go to the podium. Thanks, Mark.
So, Mario Kesey, I, at one point, assembled all this. I worked with Hansi to sell him the pad, behind us was the former Rite Aid King's Auto. And then I worked with Gordon's group to get them the site plan you guys recently approved. I, talking to all the parties, we think 3,000 each is a little excessive. However, we would like you guys, or just to propose, maybe a third-party company to come and assess, maybe some comps for $9,000 a year for .08 acres.
We're talking three individual businesses, and if HydroPros, that business is going to be quite large, right? Yeah, and you're talking $250 a month access, which I don't think, and show me what your net revenue sales are a month, and maybe we'll just take a percentage.
Sure, well, the access point's also used as a safety, in my opinion, it's used as safety, like, you go to the BP, instead of desperately turning right into the BP, you're taking the second access point, which, within the whole complex, helps ingress, egress from Van Dyke, what is that, Utica Road? Or is that Canal Road?
Canal Road, yeah.
And then Hall Road as well. So collectively, I don't really see it just for the benefit of our three businesses, but more of a benefit for the community. Ingress, egress, police, fire stations, ambulances, So I just feel like $9,000 a year, wouldn't appraise for that.
It's $3,000 per entity.
Sure.
So there's three separate businesses there that pay $250 a month to allow access into their place. And I think that given the sales that you're going to look at, especially with marijuana now becoming a legal entity and grow about the house, I'm sure HydroPros is hoping to take off, right? So
I can't attest to that.
And
I actually restricted most of these properties with deed restrictions against marijuana.
we're not growing marijuana, but growing supplies to grow marijuana.
Okay.
But also, how many cars a day are going to be coming to that car wash in January through, say November through whatever, and the snow starts falling? You can get 40, 50 cars in there an hour.
Sure.
So,
I agree with what you're saying, it's a benefit to all of us, but I think a third party, I don't know where $3,000 per business per year came from. And just let the record be known, I'm out March 25th or June 25th, like, I have no involvement in any of these entities, but I created this assemblage, so I just kind of wanted,
We can
to be here on
certainly,
behalf
we
of
can certainly
everybody.
table the whole thing, and if you want to provide some sort of comparable data that you might be able to bring forward, we can certainly let it sit.
Okay.
Do you have a number in mind? I mean,
I have some comps from like other ground leases. I mean, like, if you put this on scale with what Chick-fil-A paid at Hall Road and Shaner, I think this fee is in excess of that. I don't think that.
Do they have 3 businesses servicing that one drive? Or being serviced by that one drive?
I'm just talking about like a
Are they on the
ground.
corner of Hall Road and Van Dyke, one of the most heavily traveled intersections in Metro Detroit?
Sure.
I mean, we can argue about pennies and delay it, that's fine.
I'm not trying to argue, but I just want to come up with a third-party reputable company to come and say, hey, here's what market rates are for 5,700 square feet of land. Rather than just
that's
say.
not really
don't think
a
that-
fair representation.
I don't think
It's-
this body would be entertained by that,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth. I think
So where did $3,000 per entity per bit, this is just like a, because it was at one point $3,000 a year, so this is 300% an increase to that.
No,
You
it was $2,000 a year way back when. I mean, years ago. That's 10 years ago, longer than that?
Yeah, the original contract was created 20 years.
20 years ago.
I'm gonna build a
They
park
had
right there.
developed
I'm gonna
that,
build a
what,
park there. Just say yes.
12 years ago, and they were $7,000, so.
Huh? Yeah, so in speaking with Lewis, Lewis wasn't opposed to it. I don't know if he represents, who he represents, but Lewis wasn't opposed to the figure when we spoke on the phone.
Lewis is representing the purchaser with me as well.
Yeah, he wasn't opposed to it.
So when we originally started this whole thing, I've been talking to Beth and we've been going back and forth in terms of what the number was for the easement. We were told it was initially 1,000. We told our guys 1,000. They're on board with $1,000. And I think probably the rest of these guys would all be on board with $1,000 as well.
I don't know if that's agreeable to this body. Sorry, I mean, it's a.
That's still a city street that we have to maintain. Okay.
Our
correct?
taxpayers are gonna have to pay to have that replaced at some point to maintain.
So the amount of traffic that will go through with the semis of HydroPro, you're gonna want 400 cars a day driving into a car wash, okay? BP wants as many people buying gas, maybe not gas, but will go into the store, buy booze, buy, things that generate more profit. So the cost of $3,000 for us to maintain that street, it's not worth it. I'm just telling you, and especially 20 years ago, it was a $2,000 fee, okay? Without all these entities using it, so.
Well, if I understand, it wasn't even put into place up until this whole development is started. Is that right?
Well, I could honestly say shame on us, but somebody got a good deal, okay? So the good deal doesn't continue forever.
That's good.
So,
The car wash was made aware from day one that property to use that driveway required a lease. Day one. Did I talk to Landmark and whoever else?
Correct. And we, under our impression that we
And there
had,
was
it was
no
a
determined
number
amount.
of roughly $1,000. So that's where we were comfortable with.
we have to.
No, I do it. Put a park there.
That's,
Well, Joe, we can table this, or you could be agreeable to these terms, but, and we can move forward with this today, or we can just simply table it and look for further discussions.
question from a legal standpoint, we table this today, it's our street, nobody's paid anything, okay? Can I block the street?
It's not a street. It would be trespassing.
Okay, so then at that point, any use of that property in and out on that thing would be trespassing, that anybody uses it, so decide.
Right.
I hate to say decide, you know?
Well, guys,
I think that
this,
barricading that, just monetary aside, would harm the pedestrians and people in cars. I really
well,
do.
we've been in talks with this for the last couple of weeks. And the last conversation I had was last Thursday, okay? And when I spoke with Lewis, I said, these are the terms, take them to your guys. I didn't get a call on Friday. I didn't get an email or anything over the weekend. I didn't get a call on Monday. Here we are at 9:30 and you're saying this isn't agreeable. You had your time to respond to this. These are the terms that which the city is offering you, and we're agreeable to these. If you want to do it, let's do business. If you don't, then we're gonna not do business with you. And those are the choices I think you had to deal with.
So can we ask you for, can we ask?
That's not my fault. I don't represent you. Your representation had an opportunity to inform
Can
you.
we ask you to table it while we can go to a third-party company, and present you guys with what we feel is market rate or something that's fair for the 0.08 acres that we're seeking to,
Mark, are you valuing what that little piece of property is at by square footage? It's a use factor. It's a maintenance
Utilization,
factor on
what-
us, so the answer is no. My opinion is no, you can't.
I would be willing to consider it, a number that you brought, but there's no guarantee that, you know, this board would vote in favor of it.
Okay. All right.
we're looking to improve this whole, I mean, like I mentioned to you, you know, I honestly, you know, I mean, you guys, if you'd like to,
Today wasn't the day for negotiations.
well, I was just made aware, of the $3,000. Up until last Thursday, it was collectively 3,000, and then on Thursday, it
That's not
changed
true.
from,
That's not true. I had a very clear conversation with Louis.
with Louis?
Louis Ciotti.
Louis didn't relay that message to me, or Hansi, or Rocky.
Well, then I'll make a motion to go ahead and table this item.
Support.
Until we convene again. It's been moved, it's been supported. Any discussion on the matter?
Support.
Moved by Dion, supported by Calandrino. Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Okay, gentlemen, we'll meet, next time our council convenes will be the second Tuesday of next month. All right, one more thing from the mayor's office. We only have a couple people in here. You all already know about it. Music in the Parks on the weekends, 7 PM to 10 PM, right down here at the Jack McKay Noonan and Memorial Park. We have food truck rallies coming up. There's gonna be one in June 29th at Grant Park is the Bark in the Park. We were paying respect and tribute to animals that have been victims of animal cruelty. And you can bring your dogs, it'll be all sorts of good food and live entertainment with bands. And there'll be live police canine demonstrations and also a live art demonstration where they'll be doing some really cool art displays, and that's gonna be a live demonstration. So if anyone would like to join us at that point, that'd be great. Council, did you have any reports, anything to report today from council?
Just like to say, the music in the park was incredible. We had, between 120, 150 people. The band was great, crowds were great. It was more than we ever had.
It was a really good
It
time.
was fun.
Okay. Very
I do
good.
have something. I was at a meeting at St. Lawrence for the better part of yesterday afternoon, and more than once, it was brought up by different people on what a good relationship St. Lawrence has and how thankful they are for our police department. I'm sorry that, Chief Cody's gone, but it was brought up more than once on what a good relationship they have with the city of Utica and with our police department. So that was just, I wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do, St. Lawrence, the school, they always call and give compliments on how things are going with the PD. They're really great about that. So moving on to the planning. Planners, anything special, Samantha?
At Wednesday's meeting, we had a very productive discussion about the sign ordinance, and we reviewed several examples from other communities, and I think we kind of have a rough decision on where we're gonna go moving forward. So John and I are gonna work on that this week and hopefully get it over to Linda so that I can't guarantee to you this, but hopefully next month we can at least make a recommendation to council on moving forward with adopting a new sign ordinance.
Good.
So, just roughly, we sort of just discussed setting a size limit and a number based on district and no time limit at all because for temporary signs, I'm sorry. Because that's pretty much what Linda has advised. So, for example, residential districts can have one temporary sign not exceeding, I think we decided 3 feet in height and 8 square feet. And they can have it at all times, but that would basically limit them to having a lawn sign because 3 feet in height would be about 1 foot for the wire base and then 2 feet for the basic lawn sign, which is like 24 by 18. And then commercial districts, they increase the height to 4 feet and the size, I think, to 12. And this is just rough numbers that we're gonna put together and discuss more next month as well. But we think that sort of helps with the different lawsuits that have been going on and the freedom of speech issues, but also restricts the number of signs so that the city doesn't start looking like a minefield of temporary signs everywhere.
And by limiting the height, you're sort of going to self-restrict like feather signs and large tall banners without really having to explicitly state that they're not allowed as well. So it simplifies the ordinance and sort of self-regulates. So I think it's a good step, and I think it's gonna be easy to enforce too, which I think is important. Because we've had Jerry at some of the meetings, and that's a major concern. We don't wanna create an ordinance that he can't keep up with and can't enforce. So we're going for simple. I think that'll be our safest bet and hopefully what the city wants. So I think that we will have that for you next month, and it'll be in your packets when they go out a week ahead of time for you to review too, so.
Very good, thank you. So, Assessor Mr. Gruss had nothing to report tonight. The library, we already had, I'm sorry, next would be Building Department, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Hicks is requesting time to be paid during court. He does on occasion throughout the year, a couple times, go to court to represent the city on cases regarding blight or code enforcement or building enforcement. Ms. Ricketts, do you have any information on that?
He's requesting $30 per hour. The court finds that he does charge people more than generously covers his $30 an hour rate for a court appearance.
Would you know so far in the past 6 months here, how many times he's been to court to represent the city?
Twice.
Twice? Okay. So
We were there today,
there is the occasion where he does have to go to court. It's not too often, as you can indicate from the twice a year so far. But it is taking him out of his normal routine, and it does require him to go to court. So he is requesting to be paid or compensated during his court hours, as he is a part-time employee. So, any questions or comments? I know, Gus, we spoke a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'll be the bad guy. A big fan of Jerry's work. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I've enjoyed working with him. He's responded admirably to some of the blight issues that I've brought to him. So this certainly has nothing to do with the job Jerry's doing or anything. However, we raised the cost 75.97% last year when we moved that role into the more expanded, hours. I would prefer to see him flex, what are we, I think we're giving him 20, Beth, go ahead, Beth.
Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but the $30 an hour would come out of, I want to say, the building department fund. Is that where the court fines go? Because he's already generated $5,000 in court fees. And
that's great.
Which more
And I'd
than
like to
covers
see that
his
stay
court
with the
time.
city. I mean, I really would.
Well, he's not bound to show up to court. I mean, if he has a court summons, he'd be required to show up. If he doesn't have a subpoena, he may not be required to show up, and not showing up could be the case where he's like, oh, I'm not getting paid. Why would I show up to court? And not that he would do that because he's a loyal employee, but if he's showing up to court on his time without a summons or notice, it would stand to reason $5,000 so far this year, and paying $60 for.
I think we've asked all city employees, department heads to make compromises, to get the budget where we got it this year. And that's my opinion. Again, it's not a reflection on Jerry, who I think is doing a fantastic job. I would prefer to see him flex. If we're paying him, if he's in court for 8 hours, then that week he only works 12 hours, right? I mean, that's the way I would prefer to see it. But
And I see where you're at with that one, but my assertion would be that'd be 8 hours that the blight enforcement wasn't completed.
I get it, but it's twice a year. So
Well, it could
we're
be-
being sold that it doesn't happen very often.
Sure, but if he's and you hate to use tickets as revenue, because that's certainly not the case, but if he is sent to court, because he's out there working, then those people are cited appropriately, and he would go to court accordingly.
Why aren't his court hours accounted in his normal working hours? Like, why can't he just take work time?
Yeah, well, that's what Gus is saying.
That's exactly what
Because Jerry's a part-time employee, he doesn't work Monday through Friday, 8 AM to 4 PM.
Right.
He works as an inspector in other municipalities as well. So he's here basically when the hours that he's allotted to be here. So I guess, if you were agreeable to have him flex his court time, that's something council may do, but the request is to actually have him being paid for the time he spends there for the money that he was well compensated for. I'm sorry, the city's well compensated for his efforts.
if I may.
Please.
The court time for tickets that he's issued comes out of the building code fund, not the general fund.
I don't really see that as relevant, because,
It's a different budget.
right, but
It
it's
has
all,
It has its own revenue
Different budget.
source.
So he generates enough, more than enough money in the fines that he gets to cover his $30 an hour in court costs, if he has to go to court. I mean, he puts a lot of effort into his court cases.
I totally see both points.
I do too.
Yeah, I do
I think
too.
it takes a little bit more to go to court than it is to just go and do blight.
I guess you would set precedent if Jerry were to ever leave, the next inspector could say, well, you did this for him, but on a blight issue only, Jerry has been one of the best inspectors we've had because he goes and talks to people and gets them, he gives them a shot. Then he doesn't give them a shot, you know, where most of our previous building inspectors who had to do blight just shoved it out because that's the non-fun part of the job. It didn't go anyplace. So he proved himself, we increased his hours, he's out there doing it, okay? Again, we would like to see live within your budget, and I understand it's a different budget. It's still funds.
what do,
okay?
what do we do
We don't get-
if there's a large number of court,
Well, I guess if he's
trials
reaching
coming
that point, then.
without any ceiling on that? I mean,
But is all of a sudden, and you hate to say the revenue producing end of it, if he's in that many cases, is he producing that much money for that
but then
many
the
hours?
argument doesn't hold either, because, like Mayor said, he's not doing blight work. Well, if he's in court all the time, he's not doing blight work either.
But he got to court because he did the blight work and people wouldn't do what they were supposed to do.
I'm seeing some circular logic here.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally.
No,
Ultimately, he's gonna be doing his
it
job so well, there shouldn't be any blight.
Right.
Table it till he's here.
Yeah, it might, we could table it when he can speak for himself.
I think tabling would be wise too, but I also.
Pardon?
We've tabled half the meeting.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to tabling.
Another long
I think you
meeting.
look at someone that's valuable like Jerry, and he's brought it, he's more than paid for his actions and his work by the revenue that he's brought in. The increased property values are happening because he's maintaining things. I think that, I personally, and I'm fine with tabling, but I just want to tell you this piece. I think he's a valuable employee for the $200 we might charge a year, for the thousands
I
of
do
dollars.
too, but I think all our employees are valuable.
think everybody-
And everybody made
everybody's-
compromises and concessions.
Yeah, so, yeah, anyway, again, also, we're talking about a 6-month term throughout the year, because blight code enforcement's for 6 months typically,
That's a good point, yeah.
so.
The only real concern I have is the potential precedent-setting issue that you have.
Okay, so why don't we, someone should make a motion to table it, and we'll talk to Mr. Hicks next time we come around.
I'll make a motion to table.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calendino, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries, we'll table the discussion for Mr. Hicks's compensation. Library's been taken care of, Chief Wilczek, sir.
I have nothing other than I want to thank Fred Gibson and Jason Stitchheller today for handling over 100 third graders from Flickinger, or no, from Wiley today.
Yeah,
So,
they did a great job.
They did a great job.
Yeah, Fred, I know Fred has been on all these tours too.
Fred loves it.
Yeah, he's
He
always there.
loves doing
There was
those.
Jason? Is that their
Stitchheller,
firefighter?
yeah, they're one of our new guys.
Okay.
So,
So, okay, Mr. Lang, anything, sir?
No, just a update, we already talked about the Van Dyke curb project happening this summer, Summer Street project happening, of course, Pioneer Park now, we're gonna get off the ground. Oh, there, I remember the point. We started today, if you notice, sticking up in the front yards of some of the residents. We're starting on Kedding, and we're gonna work west across the city and do our best to eliminate the severe trip hazards on the sidewalks. We got some CDBG funding. We're not necessarily gonna pick and choose just CDBG. Low-income areas, we're gonna try to, comprehensively sweep the whole city. It's gonna keep us quite busy. We're a very small group, short-staffed. Summer, people like to go on vacation, and it's raining just about every other day. But if you do notice these laths sticking up, or you get any calls with orange paint on them, that's what we're working on. We started that project today, so we'll be working on that probably throughout the entire summer, so.
I had a resident, I don't even know if this is you guys, Bill, but a resident at the music in the park on Friday complained, she lives on Cass, and she said her sidewalks was very uneven, and there was asphalt, she called it asphalt put there.
Yep.
Is that what we're talking about?
That was a temporary measure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a temporary measure. Again, they'll have to be a little more patient.
Sure.
Because we're starting at that end and just gonna try to sweep.
I'll let her know
And
it's
to
a
be quite
temporary,
honest, it's the responsibility of the homeowner.
and I let the resident know that
We
too.
put a patch on it for them for everyone's sake.
Right.
Mostly their sake and their sake of those traversing the sidewalk, but I asked the DPW to do that because we were having people that are actually tripping.
Right.
If the resident knows full well, unfortunately, that they need to replace that and they haven't, we've also not enforced it, so we put a patch on it to kind of help out. Oh, there you go, Tom. I was talking about John and Jim's, but you have one too, right?
Not only that, I think that back in the 80s, I actually got sued because somebody tripped on my sidewalk. City paid for it.
They paid to have it replaced?
No, they paid the lawsuit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I could get the information if Linda wants to look it up.
That's great to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you had a small one, right? Was it your property that had a small one, or was it John and Jen's? So were you not?
John had a real good one.
Yeah. Are you content with the temporary patch?
Am I?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, what's a temporary? I mean, it's better than.
Yeah, but it's,
It's as far
I
as,
guess mine's the one that somebody tripped on.
like, as far as having a temporary solution for safety purposes,
Yeah, that's
until they can be replaced.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Mr. Lane?
So by city ordinance, maintenance of the property, including the sidewalk, is the responsibility of the property owner. All of these properties could be, Jerry could be put out there, or ourselves could be, you cite in fact, we just implement a sidewalk improvement program, and you solicit pricing and you offer to the residents, that they get, I don't want to call it a citation, but a informational packet that pursuant to A, B, C, and D of the ordinance, your property has been notified as needing replacement. You can pay, used to be like $50 a slab, or you could have it fixed at your own expense. Why the city paid, I'm not sure.
Well, when the rules were changed, I don't know, because
Yeah.
they used to go around, trim the trees. They planted a tree, they cut a tree down without even letting me know. So the city apparently owns all of that property. When they changed it, I don't know.
Well, it's city right away, it is owned, but like all the properties, there's city ordinances that are in place that
They
address
paid for a
that.
lawsuit one time.
I understand that. All I can do is cite, I wasn't here, I didn't do that, all I can do is cite the ordinance. Where we're at right now is, the intention is to sweep the city, utilize CDBG monies to cover the concrete costs in the low-income, low-mod areas, and then utilize local street monies just for the concrete and replacement, and address some of these other issues. 15 years ago, your sidewalk was replaced, all new. It would have went in on the Cass Avenue project 16 years ago. Was one of my first projects that I did when I was here. But if you look at that, in 16 years, it's heaved like that, so. That's our intentions, not to upset anybody. We're actually out trying to do the residents a favor. We could implement the city ordinance. However, that's kind of a gray area too. Some streets don't have sidewalks. So why should a resident have to pay to replace a sidewalk when another resident doesn't even have one? We can get into a circular discussion about that, but we don't need to table it. This is just informational, that's what we're out doing. Okay?
Okay, very good.
So if you get questions, that's what's happening. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
nothing else from the DPW? All right. Treasurer, Mr. Paternoster, we're gonna talk about some of the items we spoke about in the open, in the hearing.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. First item to address is the 2019 tax rate request. As I mentioned during the public hearing, I'm proposing that the council adopt for 2019 the following rates: for general operating, millage of 16.6842. For public safety, 1.6681. For public library, millage number 1, .8339, for public library millage 2, .3962, and for the street debt, 1.4358. All of these to be levied on the July 1st levy date. Request a motion to approve those rates.
I'll make a motion that we approve those.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Renzi, it's been supported by Mr. Calendino. Council, any discussion on the matter? And Ms. Ricketts, will the roll call vote, please?
Cora,
Yes.
Frenzy.
Yes.
Covington, Sylvester.
Yes.
Calendino.
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Deanne.
Yes, very good, motion carries. Mr. Paternoster.
Thank you. Second item is the annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020. Requesting a motion to approve the annual budget of the city of Utica for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019, and ending on June 30, 2020, as presented.
I move that we approve the budget as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Calendino, it's been supported by Mr. O'Donnell. Council, any discussion on the matter?
Just, when we were going over the numbers, it was mentioned that we had a surplus. This is the first time, due to a lot of hard work by a lot of departments, people in the city,
Lot of sacrifice.
people up here, that we balanced the budget. So, people need to know that. It's been a long, long time, so I'd like to thank everybody. That's it.
Oh, yes.
And Mr. Paternoster, we had discussions earlier in the office. We asked when the budget was we adopted last time a balanced budget.
So I went back through our records. The last time that a budget was adopted with a net revenue was in 2009. Every budget adopted since then, up through 2018, has been adopted with a net expenditure. The question was raised as to whether we ended our fiscal years with net expenditures. And according to our audited financial statements, we had net expenditures at year end in 2010, 2011, 2013, and 2017.
So from 2018.
In 2000 and, let's see, actual, 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, 15, 16, and 18, we finished the years with a net revenue, even though we had budgeted a net expenditure.
Okay, very good.
Before we proceed, if I could, the clerk has reminded me that the MBA budget as presented was incorrect. I would ask that the maker of the motion amend that motion to exclude the MBA budget, table that for Thursday's meeting.
Ms. Ricketts, who are our
So
motion?
moved.
Who are the people that moved?
Me and
Yeah.
O'Donnell.
Okay. So proper protocol would be in this case to,
Amend the motion.
Calendino to amend it and Brad to support.
I would like to amend my motion to omit the MDA budget from our approval tonight.
Support.
so further supported by, or further motion by Mr. Calendino and further supported by Mr. O'Donnell. In that case, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Sikora?
Yes.
Frenzy?
Yes.
Covington? Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanne?
Yes, very good, motion carries. Mr. Paternoster. Continuing, we did interrupt a budget motion for the adoption. Do we have a roll call vote on the adoption of the budget? We did not, did we? We did have a motion, though. Correct? Mr. Calendino
thought you
moved.
just did.
Yeah, we just did.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about update the motion for the MBA. I apologize. As you were.
No, that's actually true. Yeah, we were voting on the
No.
amendment.
It was approval of the budget.
Oh, yeah. We approved the budget, but then we obviously changed the budget to amend, or to leave out the MBA.
To leave out the,
And then we voted on the amended.
Very good. Understood. So then, on the
Item number
appropriations.
3.
Clear as mud.
We have the 2020 annual appropriation ordinance. This is an ordinance to provide for the amount of money to be raised by the city of Utica by taxation for the respective funds of the said city, exclusive of the senior housing funds and the water and sewer fund, for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2019 and ending on June 30, 2020, to be known as the annual appropriation ordinance for the year 2020. The city of Utica, Michigan ordains, section 1, that there be appropriated, and it is hereby required that there be raised by taxation with the next general city tax levy in the city of Utica, Macomb County, Michigan, to be paid into several established funds of said city, excepting from the senior housing funds and the water and sewer funds, for the purpose of defraying the expenditures and liabilities of said city for the current fiscal year, beginning on July 1, 2019 and ending on June 30, 2020. And in addition to the anticipated receipts and revenue from other sources to be allocated to said funds, the sum of $4,277,823, the particular objects and purpose for which said sum is hereby required to be raised, being based on the several objects as set forth in the annual City of Utica General Fund and Public Library Fund budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, is heretofore duly adopted by the Common Council of the said city, and the budgets are included. We already discussed them. This ordinance shall be effective as of July 1, 2019, upon publication and posting thereof, as is provided in the City of Utica Charter. And request a motion to adopt this ordinance.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calendino. Council, any discussion on the matter? Very good. Ms. Ricketts, we'll have the roll call vote, please.
Sikora?
Yes.
Frenzy?
Yes.
Pennington? Lester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deanna?
Yes, very good. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Patmaster, furthermore?
Okay, next item, you have in your packet a memo from me entitled Fiscal Year End June 30, 2019 Budget Amendments. Having reviewed the expenditures of the various departments and funds of the City of Utica, I hereby submit to the council for approval the following amendments to the fiscal year 2019 budget. Within the general fund, increase the assessing by 500, legal by 600, city clerk by 11,000, rubbish disposal 2,000, miscellaneous administration, a transfer to the sewer and water fund of 11,000, a transfer to the Parks and Recreation Commission 27,500, video equipment $3,440, early warning signal energy $1,760, general liability $3,240, police department operations $22,650, capital outlay $12,100. Major street fund, Van Dyke Canal resurfacing project, $11,200. Utica Shelby Hike and Bike Trail project, $23,000. Local street fund, snow and ice control, $3,500. Building code enforcement fund, $1,910. Memorial Park Development Fund, $8,410. Parks and Recreation operating transfer to the Memorial Park Development Fund, $1,180. So I included in here explanations of the increases. The city clerk did inform me this morning that she had received a credit from one of the insurance companies. I believe that credit would be split between the clerk's department and street and water and sewer. I'm not sure exactly how much, but I'm recommending that we leave the numbers as presented for this moment. Within the assessing department, these increases were driven primarily by increases in the software support and the need to publish a number of Board of Review notifications. Within the legal department, it was driven by increases in retiree insurance over what was anticipated. Within the clerk's office, we had employee insurance, retiree insurance, maintenance on our IT computer systems that had not been anticipated, increases in postage, telephone costs, publishing, and the lease of the new telephone lease. I think that went into place last year, but it wasn't adequately reflected in this year's budget as a lease. Rubbish disposal, I was unaware that the Waste Management was passing on within their rate a 15-cent fuel tax that went into effect in 2017. So I was budgeting based on our contract amount times the number of units. It equates to about $1,900. I spoke with the rep from Waste Management last week. He explained to me the discrepancy. And I did go back and notice that, yes, it went into effect in 2017. So we made that adjustment for fiscal year 2020 going forward. Under miscellaneous administration, the council authorized a contract with Consumers Energy a couple of months ago to rent property, and also took action to allocate the funds received to the Sewer and Water Fund and the Parks and Rec Commission. However, the budget was not amended at the time the action was taken, so hence those two amounts. Video equipment, we had to purchase a laptop and Wondershare software and a cable interface hardware to implement our new video council broadcasting system. Those were items that, if you recall, the video equipment was ordered in the previous fiscal year, and these items had to be ordered this year. Early warning signal, for many years, the warning signals were not operating correctly or were not operating at all. Hence, there was not much in the electrical service to them. Now that we have 2 fully operational warning signals, alas, the DTE charges have gone up. And finally, we had a slight increase in the general liability insurance premium that was partially offset by a dividend. Under police operations, it's mostly payroll related, court time, part-time dispatch, overtime, insurances, pension. We did have an employee that terminated service during the year that had not been anticipated in the budget. Capital outlay for the police, we took delivery of a vehicle in October that had been ordered in May of the previous fiscal year and was not anticipated in the current budget. Major street fund, we have the final billings for the Van Dyke Canal resurfacing project. That was budgeted for in fiscal year 18. Utica Shelby Hike and Bike Trail, it's a final billing from MDOT in Macomb County, some 3.5 years after the project was substantially complete. Local street fund, it's snow removal this last winter exceeded what was anticipated in the budget. Building code enforcement fund, again, in this fund, it's one of those situations where building code enforcement wages may be paid out in a different fiscal year than the permit fees came in. Memorial Park Development Fund, we had engineering costs that exceeded the original estimate, construction for the park development came in slightly more than was originally expected, although I have to say, when the final bill came in, it came in less than was contracted for. The excess engineering costs were partially offset by a donation from Hubble, Roth, and Clark in the amount of $7,500. And finally, in the Parks and Rec Commission, I'm requesting that the difference between the grant revenues and the final costs be covered from a sum of money that is in a Parks and Rec Memorial Park Reserve account. We have approximately $10,000 sitting in that account that is designated to Memorial Park. The revenue, the money that's in there was generated by a brick paver campaign that we had many years ago that went nowhere. I shouldn't say it went nowhere. We got the money, and then the project stalled, and the people who had donated for that project asked that the money be kept in reserve until such time as Memorial Park was developed.
So with those funds, what are you asking to do with those funds?
I am asking specifically to transfer
Just
a
11.
sum up to $1,180 to the Memorial Park Development Fund, which is the fund that we
To cover
established.
the difference in the most recent,
Pardon me?
to cover the difference in the most recent construction?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, under that grant program from the MEDC,
okay,
because the grant monies was insufficient for the total cost.
okay. So
That would
it-
still leave some money in that Memorial Park Fund.
Close to 9,000-ish?
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay, council, Mr. Paternoster has given us the information for the budget amendments. It would require a motion to approve these amendments.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Sikora, supported by Mr. Renzi. Ms. Riggins will have a roll call vote, please.
Cora,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Yes.
Covington, Sylvester,
Yes.
Calandrino,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ian.
Yes, very good, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. So, Mr. Paternoster, going into the water and deficit sewer elimination plan, this is something that is able to be posted on the city website as well?
I'm sorry?
The water and sewer deficit elimination program, is that something that's able to be posted on the website for people to appreciate?
It is, it certainly is. In fact, it will, once we submit it to the Michigan Department of Treasury, they will be posting it as well.
Okay.
But,
And-
so,
and just in order, and for the efforts of brevity, if there's much that needs to be read there, similar to how we did the budget amendments, if we could just allow that, the nuts and bolts of it.
Sure.
And then the numbers, and then if anyone should seek to have the, other than the Cliff Notes version, they could find that fine reading right on our city website.
so, the Glenn-style State Revenue Sharing Act requires that we submit a deficit elimination plan to the Treasury in the event that we experience a deficit in any one of our funds. Fiscal year 2018, we ended the fiscal year with a fund deficit of $536,019 in the sewer and water fund. In looking at the financials of the fund and the method that is prescribed by the Treasury for determining the deficit and how you're going to get out of this deficit, it became apparent that part of the deficit arose from having a short-term liability on our balance sheet for an advance from the general fund to the water and sewer fund for, to cover cash flow, because the revenues coming into the system were insufficient to cover the expenditures and liabilities that had to be paid in the fiscal year. I spoke with the auditor. I spoke with the gentleman from Treasury yesterday. Both of them concurred that if we reclassified this short-term liability, current liability, as a long-term liability, and establish a payback schedule that we would, in essence, eliminate the deficit in fiscal year 2019. Treasury does, however, expect us to make changes to our water and sewer fund to prevent this from happening in the future.
You're right. You're right.
So our deficit elimination plan is basically twofold. It is for the council to, by resolution, reclassify the advances from the general fund as a long-term operating debt. I'm suggesting that we repay this over a period of 10 years, beginning in fiscal year 2020, with interest, which I would set at the rate that we would earn if the money were invested in Michigan Class, which is a pooled fund of municipal governments here in the state of Michigan. And then furthermore, to adopt this budget as I've outlined it, which includes the prior year 2018, the proposed fiscal year 19, and the proposed fiscal year 2020. Basically, what we are trying to do is make our current assets exceed our current liabilities. To make this situation go away long-term, we need to amend our water and sewer rates. And the council, I believe it was in 2018, granted the water and sewer department permission to make a change to the rate methodology under our current system of billing. Everybody gets billed a minimum bill of approximately $86, but that minimum allows them up to 9,000 gallons. And then any consumption thereafter is billed at a consumption rate. Our proposal is to change that to what would be called a ready-to-serve charge, which would be levied against every customer based on their meter size or resident equivalent unit. And then there would be a consumption charge that would be charged against every unit of water and sewer, a unit being 1,000 gallons. For a resident unit of 1, which is a 5/8 meter, you would see your initial bill go down because the ready-to-serve charge will be less than a current minimum of $86. However, as you start using water, there will be a point at which you catch up, and unfortunately, by the time you hit 9,000 gallons, your bill will have nearly doubled over the current rate. This is not something that I'm excited about implementing. Unfortunately, we haven't had a rate increase since 2012, I believe it is. We've seen increases in the cost of water, cost of sewage. We've seen increases in debt service from the county. And because we haven't been raising our rates, we're not maintaining sufficient working capital or short-term capital reserves.
So are you saying that the water rates for consumption are going to double?
Yes.
Not the consumption rates themselves, but by the per unit rate is not going to double. The per unit rate is going to be about 12% higher than what it currently is. However, because you currently get your first 9,000 for virtually nothing, because that $86 is going to pay debt service, now you're going to have to pay for those first 9,000 gallons.
So there's no free water with your minimum service?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the person who goes away for the winter will see their minimum bill go down. the person who stays and continues to use water will not see their minimum bill go down unless they're using less than 4,000 gallons a quarter, which not very many people use that little.
It's kind of tough, it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow.
So for our average resident, their bill's gonna go up double.
So the average, assuming that the average resident, and most of our residents are on 5/8 meters, which is carries an equivalent unit of 1. Most of our residents are on 5/8 meters. If they use 9,000 gallons, they will see their rate just about double.
So, and if you're a regular consumer like our house, I think we use 20,000 gallons. We'll see 20,000 gallons, and we'd also be appreciating $9,000 gallons on top of that, because we're not paying for the minimum.
Right.
Which was otherwise only being appreciated at, say, 11,000 gallons we were paying for above and beyond, or $86. So now we're paying 9,000 gallons that we use, plus the other gallons so, yeah, we're gonna see a 9,000 gallon increase on our bill.
11,000.
No, we used 11,000, 9,000 what we got for free. We're gonna see 9,000 gallons added to it now. So for us, it's a double. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of money. That's not gonna look good.
No.
No.
And how about the?
There's gonna be a lot of unhappy residents in this one.
Yeah, imagine one of the Shelby people that use this Utica water.
It's gonna be
What's happening to those guys?
still more, I'm assuming, or?
Double on
Yes,
double on
the
double?
larger
I think
the
it's gonna
larger
be-
the meter, the higher the rate.
You might as well
on
buy
your-
water
on your,
in the jug at Costco.
Ready.
On your ready to serve charge.
I mean, I have a 1-inch meter. Phil and I discussed this way back when he was talking about that. My charge above and beyond the 5/8 meter, I have $42 more just because I have the potential. Not I'm going to use more water, but I have the potential to use more water. So,
Yep, Ms. Ricketts?
I have a quick question. This ready to serve charge, it doesn't say, is that a monthly, quarterly?
It's a quarterly.
annually fee?
The quarterly.
It's a quarterly fee, doesn't say that.
What's the commodity charge?
that's your gallons.
Oh, that's
That's water. Water and or sewer.
Here it's telling you what it is.
Well, no, this is the ready-to-serve charge. This is, call it, let's say your administrative fee charge. Okay, your fixed cost charge, that's what you pay. And then, so if you had a 5/8 meter, you're gonna pay the 8.38 and the 20, so you've got roughly $29 there. And then for every 1,000 gallons, because you're gonna pay both water and sewer, you're gonna pay about $16.
Just refinance the house for water.
So once this is resolved, Phil, I mean, the rate will go back down to something normal? Is that what's?
It'll never go down.
So, I don't anticipate that the rates will ever go back down below. And the reason I say that is, our rates are so artificially low right now, which is why we experienced a $500,000 shortfall in cash in one fiscal year, okay? Once we have paid back the general fund, you will have removed that $140,000 a year component from the cost structure. But I fully anticipate that within a few years, we will be doing, once this SAW grant is completed, that we will have to be doing some significant repairs to our water, or our sanitary system, which will likely require the issuance of a revenue bond, because we aren't gonna have that kind of cash lying around. Okay, so that's going to offset the reduction of that 140, I would think.
Yeah.
But there is a possible right side coming off of that SAW grant. We know that we have some significant infiltration into our sanitary system that is costing us every year. Once we complete this SAW grant and they've identified where those problems are, and then we fix them. Yeah, it's gonna cost us to fix them, but in the long run, we will have eliminated that infiltration which the county wastewater district is billing us for which we have no mechanism to recover other than to bill it to the current customers at as a loss, that we have to recover.
Okay, so, Mr. Panos, is there anything else on the water and sewer deficit elimination plan that you needed, other than the motion to approve it?
I need a motion to approve it, and then the clerk to certify it afterwards.
I'll make a motion to adopt the water and sewer deficit elimination plan.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Sikora, it's been supported by Mr. Sylvester. Any discussion on the matter?
I think there are, no, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, part of our own issues is we should have been increasing our rates for the last 7 years. We haven't.
Yes.
So why didn't we? I mean, is it just a political?
It wasn't political, it
It just
just,
slipped through the cracks.
it gets through the cracks.
How are we
Just
by
slipped.
comparison per unit to Sterling Heights and Shelby?
I did look it up, I didn't save it, but we are about half, actually, just less than half. I mean, it's substantially higher. My other comment is going to be that I think, we are having seepage, leakage into the sewer system from, there's joking that every time it rains, somehow we're paying more for sewage. You can see the spikes on the county site. That's how bad our pipes are, that the water's getting in. I think that before we can ask for this huge of an increase, I mean, this is brutal.
Yeah.
Before we can do this, we ought to institute something that many cities around here are doing, which is an impermeable surfaces fee, where if you have these giant sprawling parking lots where none of the water can seep down into the ground as nature intended, and instead it's all washing into our, into our sewer system inadvertently, because that's what you are causing, and you're causing our, our rates to go up, but you're getting charged for that. I think this
that's
is.
a really, I apologize, I
Go
don't wanna
ahead.
cut you off.
Go
I think
ahead.
that's really hard to prove where that water is going to, because ideally, it should be going into a storm drain, which is not a
Yeah.
metered thing, so I mean,
Absolutely.
so we don't get metered on the storm drain, so are you suggesting that these large parking lots, their water is not going in the storm drain as properly, and maybe it's seeping into our sanitary sewer?
I'm saying that there is certainly storm water that is seeping into our sewage.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the
System.
case. Ms. Rita, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, you asked about Sterling Heights. Sterling Heights doesn't measure their water usage in gallons as Utica. It does cubic feet, so even
Yeah.
though it's not the same measurement. I mean, because
Yeah, my
gallons
son's
are more than
water's
cubic feet, so the minimum bill that Utica has, I've had people come and say, well, Sterling Heights is a little cheaper, but that's because they actually are paying for less water, because cubic feet is only like 6,750 gallons versus the 9 gallons that we get. If you try to do equal gallons, the actual minimum bill for Sterling Heights is actually $20 to $25, $30 more than Utica. And they do raise their water about 5% each year, minimum.
Okay.
That's good info.
Well, we have a motion.
So Brad, were you done saying what you were
Yeah,
saying?
Brad, I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you
That
off.
was.
Because you were saying that we should adopt something?
There is, I think Mr. Lang has some thoughts on what I
Well,
said.
I mean, I can just add some insight. Every sewer system has I&I infiltration into the system. That's part of what we're gonna identify. Every sewer system leaks. The same as our water system. Our water system actually leaks as well. There's a certain amount that's normal. We look to fix that. That's part of what the SAW grant's gonna help and identify. As far as this impermeable surface, that's something that I would look to as a funding mechanism to fund our stormwater management, because there is no utility set up for that. That's an unfunded mandate. Our MPDES Phase 2 permit, that's more geared towards funding a stormwater management plan or program, our storm system, if you would. Anyway, when it comes to rates, I always equate things to, we've been spoiled a long time. We take water for granted, we take sewer for granted. City of Detroit, we we should incrementally, regardless, as long as it doesn't exceed what our rate structure will allow, because if I'm correct, Phil, we can't have a windfall of money. We have to stay within the guidelines of our capital improvement plan and be able to substantiate our rate structure. We can't just have a windfall of money by raising rates. We should incrementally, at a minimum, raise the rates that are passed on to us annually from Detroit or Great Lakes Water Authority, provided we don't exceed that.
That's a
That
policy
being-
I think we should approve right now.
It's been suggested many, many times, but, you know, we also came out of one of the hardest times that, or at least we've seen economically. People were losing their houses, and we're gonna hit them with, it just, whether it was politically right or not, our rate methodology, new rate methodology wasn't quite in place. We've been working on this for a number of years. You know, rates were incrementally going up. Right, wrong, or indifferent, the rate structure that you have in front of you is fair and amicable. And what do you pay for a case of water at the store? You know, even under the new rate structure, we're $6 for 1,000 gallons. Go to the store and try to buy 1,000 gallons for $6, of which a lot of that water that you're buying is coming out of a treated pipe, not necessarily out of a spring or whatever, or it's coming off the Great Lakes and they treat it. So you're really not getting any better quality water than we have right here that we're offering our residents. Go buy an Omni filter or a reverse osmosis system for a couple $100 and filter that and carry that bottled water.
That's
So
a good point,
if
but-
if you did those types of things, and instead of buying the bottled water, you serve that reverse osmosis water, you'll have just as good, if not better, than the water you're buying bottled. So,
You know, it doesn't make it any easier to explain to a resident, though. You've been paying $200, guess what? Now you're gonna pay $400? I mean, trying to tell them, you know, how much a case of water costs at Costco, they're not gonna wanna hear that.
No,
They're
they
gonna say,
don't.
why did my bill
don't.
double?
They don't. You know, it's kinda, it's a sad reality. Get in an accident, total your car, or have a claim on your house. My house insurance, I made one claim and my rates doubled. It's just a part of life, you know. A lot of the residents, unfortunately, for some that just moved here, you know, they're gonna experience an increase. If your rate doubles from 200 to 400 over 3 months, okay, so you've got to budget another, $45 a month, another $1.25 a day?
It's a hard, because it's coming in a lump. If we would have been doing this
That's why.
5% a year for the last, you know, or 10% a year for the last 7 years, we'd be where we're at, but we haven't.
Right, and we definitely need to face it, and typically, facing it now is gonna be less painful, I think, than if we're trying to dance around it. And yes, certainly, it's the kind of thing that folks are not gonna wanna hear and is hard to explain, but, it would seem that the crumbling infrastructure around us is largely due by the fact that folks don't really wanna pay for what they use. It's just my sense.
All right, so we have a motion, it's been seconded. Was there any further discussion? All right, so Ms. Ricketts, we'll take a roll call vote to adopt the water and sewer deficit elimination plan.
Sikora?
Yes.
Trenzi?
Yes.
Cunnington? Sylvester?
Yes.
Calendino?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
No.
Deanna?
Yes. Very good, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have anything for Chief Wilczek? We've been going here, and Chief said, nothing on the agenda. Chief, why don't we get you out of here? All right, thanks, sorry about that.
We will be out soon.
Next time, just wave at me. Forget you're over there. I apologize.
Final bill.
Mr. Panos, we had the hike and bike trail, the path, final bill?
Yes, so you have in your packet an invoice from Macomb County Department of Roads referencing MDOT contract costs for Utica Shelby Hike and Bike Path, MDOT bill number 14, final accounting. An amount due $19,319.35. I have put this in in the council packet, I asked for an amendment a few minutes ago to the budget to cover this, and I'm asking for approval to pay it pending on confirmation. I've asked Mr. Lang to get in touch with the Department of Roads and just confirm that we do in fact owe this, because I do know that there was some discussion a year or two ago about a final bill that I was not part of. So when this came across my desk last month, I asked Mr. Lang if he could please take a look at it, but at the time he was off on a leave.
Question, when you get this bill, do you get an itemized bill saying what we actually owe for it? I mean, this is how long ago? So we do get,
It's been quite a few years.
Yeah, everything's quantified and checked and cross-checked off the state's reporting form. But then there are things that are warranties, like if there's a warranty, there's holdback money. So like the state would have held back money toward a contractor and they might not have billed us, or there were other things as they audited, they figured out that, okay, there's a portion of this still owed. And sometimes people don't put in their bills in a timely fashion. I don't know what Phil's experience is with dealing with the state and how quick they process things. We got a bill for didn't we get a bill for the tunnel or the bridge some 10 years later or
Yes.
15 years later?
Yes.
They find things. And to just touch on what Mr. Paternoster mentioned with the contact with Department of Roads, because this did come up earlier, the total amount that was tried to be assessed to us was nearly double, and then it was determined because one of the other partners didn't believe that they owed any of it because so much of the project was spent in Utica. More percentage, 59% or 50. There's a percentage rate.
59% is Utica, 41% Shelby.
Right, so out of and I don't remember the exact numbers, but we'll say it was a $1.2 million grant or $1.9 million project. 59% of those monies were actually spent in the city of Utica. And when this bill came about, I think it was originally sent to Shelby Township, they wanted us to pay all of it. We met and had a meeting, and it's like, well, first off, we need to substantiate where it came from, where, it's coming late, and why are we paying all? But it was settled on the 59, I think the 59.41%.
Right.
Plus 3% overhead, whatever that is.
Yeah. So, yes, it is due to wrap up the project, and unfortunately, it's not uncommon for this kind of thing to happen sometimes a couple of years later.
All right, very good. So if the bill seems to be warranted and it seems appropriate, then we would need a motion to go ahead and pay that bill.
Pending his.
Pending.
and final review.
Lang's final review.
So I'll make a motion, pay the bill, but please review collectively before you pay it.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Sikora, supported by Mr. O'Donnell. Any discussion on the matter? All right, Ms. Ricketts will have the roll call vote.
Cora,
Yes.
Trenzy,
Yes?
Cunnington, Sylvester,
Yes.
Calendino,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Peon.
Yes, very good. Okay, thank you. Motion carries, Mr. Patterson. I think that would be it, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, moving on to administration, Ms. Ricketts from the clerk's office, municipal credit smart transfer to Shelby Township.
Yes, I am requesting, as we do almost every year, transfer our credits from SMART, which is the bus service that we still contract with Shelby that would service the citizens of the city of Utica, the seniors, in the amount of $4,674 for municipal credit funds, and then $7,819,000 in community credit funds, that we transfer those funds to Shelby Township as they do run the buses that our residents have the ability to use. So the total amount is $12,493.
I'll make a motion to do all that.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Ms. Terenzi.
Caladrino.
So,
We tied.
okay, tie goes to the lady. Very good. So, moved by Sikora, supported by Ms. Terenzi. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Let's transfer those credits, ma'am. And next, you have a report from the Compensation Commission.
Yes, in your packets, you have the minutes of the Compensation Commission that met on June 6th. They voted to keep the salaries the same. They did discuss who did and who did not get raises. They did question what the budget was like. They did get some comparables, so you can either motion to deny these minutes, approve the minutes, or do nothing.
So just the minutes that we're looking to
If you
approve.
do nothing, the salaries that they voted on, they'll all remain the same.
I think we're,
The way it works for new people.
Yeah.
The way, we have the option to approve this, which means it goes into effect. We accept the letter. If we deny it, we can never change it. We can't raise or lower the amount, but we can just, if they, let's say, voted to raise it, we could have denied it. If we do nothing and decide not to vote, then it goes into effect anyway. So,
In like 30 days.
yeah, we can never increase. We could turn down a decrease by, let's say, denying it. But at this point, we're just looking for status quo, so.
okay, so the proper motion would be that.
I would vote to accept the findings of the Compensation Commission.
To
and their
approve the
letter-
minutes, right?
Approve their minutes of June 6th.
Okay, so then is that the motion you're making?
Yes.
Support. Moved by Mr. Sikora, supported by Mr. O'Donnell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. We will maintain the same compensation. Ms. Ricketts, anything further?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, nothing today from the Downtown Development Authority, except for thank you to them for supporting the Pioneer Park project. Thank you very much. Parks and Rec Commission, they have a car show request for August 10th. Mr. Sikora.
Yes, on behalf of the Parks and Rec Commission and that, I'm basically asking that we are allowed to do what we've been doing for the last couple of years, signage, closing down the street, whatever we need to do with help from the different departments. It's gonna be Saturday, August 10th in downtown, it has been before, so, nothing really.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be in Grant Park.
Well, that just didn't work out.
Okay.
So this year, it's gonna stay here, and then possibly next work, we're still gonna keep it downtown, but possibly move it to a Sunday versus a Saturday.
And there's no city funds involved with that at all?
Just seed money as far, I think we have to pay the bill for some of the advertising and stuff, however that,
The Parks and
Parks
Rec
and
actually
Rec.
enjoys the
It's in
revenue
the Parks and
from that.
That's in the
Okay.
Park and Recreation budget.
budget, so.
Okay.
So just to allow what we've been doing.
I move that we approve the car show for August 10th in downtown Utica, based on it being the same as it has
It
in years
really,
past.
there'll be a little
Support.
tweak here and there, but
It's been moved by Calandrino, supported by Ms. Terenzi. Any discussion? Very good. If not, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The motion carries. Thank you. There was nothing to report from the Historical District Commission. Ms. Linda McGrail-Baloo, anything to report from the Attorney's Office?
No news is good news.
Senior Housing Steering Committee, nothing to report. Bills Payable Council, the bills have been presented before you. We'd like to go and pay those bills. We would require a motion to pay the bills.
so moved.
Support by Mr. O'Donnell. Okay, I think you got that one, Ms. Trenzy. All those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion carries. Communication from the public, Tom? Anything from the
Public?
media? Kara? It would require a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Sikora, supported by Calandrino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Show is clear at 10:36 in the PM.
We'll be back in 48 hours.
See you in 2 days.
Lord,
Can't wait.
that was a hike.
You need yours?
Let me keep mine.